Chapter 767. Look, that's your child. Dr. John pointed at the child in the room. Generally speaking, children were placed next to the pregnant woman. Unless they were in poor health, or had no parents to take care of them, they would only be placed here. What number? 13. Is the child healthy? Chen Zhao asked. The child was born 3 weeks early, so he's weak, but he's much more stable now. There's a silver bracelet on his hand. Did Zhilin leave it behind? Dr. John froze. That's strange. We don't give jewelry to children in the room. Even if it's something left by parents, it's not allowed. Can I hug my child? Chen Zhao asked nervously. Yes. Dr. John glanced at Chen Zhao. Some young parents had the same expression as Chen Zhao. Sorry, you're not allowed to touch the child before the adoption process is completed. Okay, how long will it take? If there are no accidents, it can be done in 1 or 2 days. Okay, thank you. Just then, a woman in black professional attire walked over from the other side of the aisle. She walked with the wind, and her gaze was as sharp as a dagger. Dr. John, I'm taking my niece away now. I don't want to hear any excuses. I'm her only guardian. Sorry, Ms. Alex, you're not the first guardian now. He is. John pointed at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao froze for a moment, and looked at Ms. Alex in confusion. Before Zhilin was admitted, she recorded that the child's father is this Mr. Chen. After a paternity test, this Mr. Chen is the child's father. Alex stared at Chen Zhao aggressively. I don't care if you're Zhilin's father or not. Name your price as long as you give up custody. Sorry, I don't plan on that. Chen Zhao turned his head, ignoring Alex. Why should someone else take care of his daughter? He didn't know before, but now that he knew, he had no reason to ignore it. Alex stared at Chen Zhao. Kid, you know I'm a lawyer, right? You know I can send you to prison. Kid, you know I'm a lawyer, right? You know I can send you to prison. Chen Zhao played the sentence on his phone. Smiling, he looked at Alex. Sorry, I have the habit of recording when I talk to strangers. Alex's expression darkened. This guy seemed harder to deal with than she had imagined. Mr. Chen, I'm sorry for what I said earlier. Alex's tone and attitude suddenly changed and she softened. Zhilin and I were sisters, and my heart aches for Zhilin's death. This child is Zhilin's only hope in this world, and I hope to take care of her personally. I can provide her with the best living conditions and education. The best education for a child is to stay by their parents' side, Chen Zhao answered. Now that Zhilin is gone, I have the responsibility to take care of her. But you and Zhilin broke up a long time ago. You should have a new relationship now, right? If you have a child in your life, it should have a huge impact on your original life. Any family that has a child will change, but my girlfriend and I will try our best to adapt to this change. Seeing that she couldn't get through to Chen Zhao, Alex showed her true colors again. Zhilin's child will never be adopted by an outsider. I'm not an outsider. I'm her biological father. Apart from blood, you have no relationship with the child. Blood is already a very important relationship. You can't give the child a good life. I'm a university professor. I can also submit proof of my income and assets. I have the ability to provide the best life for the child, and I can also guarantee that she will receive the best care. Alex realized that Chen Zhao was harder to deal with than she had imagined. Chen Zhao's work gave him enough capital. She had to admit that if the adoption agency made the decision, she wouldn't have much of an advantage. Against Chen Zhao, the biological father, she wouldn't have enough of an advantage as an aunt. Between a lawyer and a university professor, the adoption agency would most likely decide that Chen Zhao was the biological father. The adoption agency would first decide if the child was related by blood. The parents would definitely be the top priority. After Zhilin passed away, the only people who could be related to the child were Chen Zhao, the father, and Alex, the aunt. If the child's biological father was a scoundrel or a gangster, Alex could manipulate things, and even send the father to prison, then obtain custody. But now Chen Zhao's job was to be the best caregiver. Even if Alex was a billionaire, she couldn't compare to a university professor. You too, if you have any disputes, can you discuss it outside the hospital? This is the hospital, and there are 20 children in the isolation rooms. I won't give up. Alex left angrily. Chen Zhao shrugged. Dr. John, I hope that the adoption certificate can be done as soon as possible. It's best if it's done within 24 hours. If possible, I'm willing to donate $1 million to the adoption agency and the hospital. Chen Zhao could tell that Alex wasn't a kind person. He didn't want to drag things out. It was best to cut the Gordian knot and bring the child to him as soon as possible. Dr. John's eyes brightened. Okay, I'll go and supervise. Then I'll have to trouble you. Chen Zhao kept looking at the child through the glass window. At the moment, the child was sleeping peacefully. Her soft cheeks were a bit rosy. Chen Zhao's heart had never felt so peaceful before. It was as if just looking at her like this was more comfortable than anything else. Mr. Chen, I'll be leaving now. Okay, goodbye. Just as Dr. John was about to leave, a woman in a hospital gown rushed over and grabbed him. Dr. John, where's my child? Where's my child? Tell me, where did my child go? Tell me. Mrs. Rouse, I don't know either. The police are investigating now. Please wait patiently. You lost my child. Give it back to me. Give it back to me. The woman continued to wail and cry. Chen Zhao frowned. Would a child go missing in this hospital? Chen Zhao couldn't help but worry. He couldn't bring the child with him now. He was even more worried. Chapter 768. A group of police officers came to St. Mary's Hospital. It wasn't their first time here. In 2 months, there had been 3 cases of missing babies. This also caused chaos in St. Mary's Hospital. The 3 girls were stolen from the isolation rooms, right? Yes. Is there surveillance? Yes. Dr. John was an obstetrician. Although he wasn't a nurse, he had to cooperate with the police. A few police officers looked at the screen. Who's the Asian sitting outside the isolation room? He's from Los Angeles. He's the father of one of the children in the isolation room. Oh, the mother is Miss Jerlin, who was sent to the hospital half a month ago. She died from severe injuries. Oh, he's the father? The police officers were surprised. Let's not talk about this. Let's adjust the footage to the time before the babies disappeared. In the screen, a man in a cloak carried a child out of the isolation room. The caregivers and doctors along the way turned a blind eye to the person carrying the child. Is he from your hospital? No, I don't know him at all. Then why didn't the people along the way react when a stranger carried a child out of the isolation room? Dr. John's expression was also very ugly. He couldn't answer either. The people along the way didn't seem to see the man at all. It's the same person who carried the child out 3 times. He's dressed the same too. He's not a hospital employee, but the people around don't seem to see him at all. Captain, what do we do now? Apart from this video, there are no other clues. Issue a warrant. The captain shook his head. Oh, you guys go back to the station first. Chen Zhao was dozing off in front of the isolation room. Suddenly, a voice woke him up. Hey buddy, how are you? Chen Zhao looked up and saw a mustached police officer. Hi, what's up? Chen Zhao asked. Are you Jerlin's ex-boyfriend? Yes. Are you here to see the child? The mustached officer asked. I'm here to take the child home, Chen Zhao said. But the adoption documents aren't done yet. Do you want to go out for a drink? Thank you, but I want to stay here, Chen Zhao said. I heard that there have been cases of missing babies in the hospital. I'm worried about my daughter. The mustache man sat beside Chen Zhao. Jerlin is my colleague Eli Ross, but we're not on the same team. What a pity. She's such an outstanding cop. Can you tell me how Jerlin died? Chen Zhao asked. He didn't know if he would still be with Fei Lai if he'd known that Jerlin was pregnant. Some things could never be verified, but the guilt he felt towards Jerlin was real. I'm not sure about the specifics, but I know that she was investigating a case that happened many years ago before her accident, and she seemed to have obtained crucial evidence. What case? Chen Zhao asked. North Beach shipwreck, Eli Ross said. This case is a man-made accident. Probably, Eli Ross said. I still have something to do. I'll leave first. Goodbye. Goodbye. After Eli Ross left, Chen Zhao took out his phone and typed in North Beach shipwreck. The accident had happened 8 years ago. At the time, a sightseeing boat had left the North Beach harbor. But 30 minutes after leaving, it suddenly sank into the water. At the time, There were 58 crew members and tourists on the boat. The rescue team arrived within 15 minutes. 28 people were killed in the accident, and 30 were rescued. Chen Zhao looked through a few similar news articles, but the content was similar. There was no more information. Chen Zhao was unfamiliar with San Francisco, so he didn't know where to start investigating. However, Chen Zhao's main concern now was to get custody of his daughter. As for helping Jerlin find out the truth behind her death and his unfulfilled wish, he could do that after this was over. Help me investigate someone. I want all the information on this person. It'd be best if you can find out if he has a criminal record, a history of drug abuse, or sexual orientation. Alex was very unwilling. From her point of view, the custody of the child should belong to her. She was the closest person to her child, not the man who'd only given her one sperm. Tell me the name of the person you want to investigate. Zhao is a professor at UCLA. Here's 10,000 as a deposit. If you can find any bad records, I'll pay you 50,000 more. Alex thought about it, but she still felt uneasy. She didn't want the child to be snatched away before she could do anything. She had to go to the hospital first. If the adoption agency's documents came, she could stop it in time. Chen Zhao had been sitting outside the isolation room for 10 hours. He stood up and glanced at his daughter in the room. His daughter had already woken up. Her mouth was wide open, and she was babbling. Just then a nurse came over and opened the room to check every baby. Just then, the nurse came to Chen Zhao's side and picked her up. Chen Zhao saw that the nurse was about to carry the child out, and immediately went to the door. Madam, what's wrong with my daughter? Where are you taking her? The nurse looked up at Chen Zhao. Suddenly, she spat out a mouthful of murky air at Chen Zhao's face. Chen Zhao waved his hand. What are you doing? Suddenly, Chen Zhao realized that the nurse's expression wasn't right. Her expression was very unnatural. Are you okay? The nurse looked at Chen Zhao in confusion. Who are you? Chen Zhao ordered. Put my daughter down. The nurse turned and ran. Chen Zhao chased after her. Stop her! Chen Zhao yelled as he ran. She stole my daughter. Worried about his daughter's safety, Chen Zhao didn't dare to attack. The nurse, on the other hand, didn't care so much. She ran as fast as she could. Her speed was clearly not that of a normal person. She ran very fast. The hospital's security was notified and joined the chase. Seeing that there were people in front of her, the nurse suddenly jumped onto the wall. Defying gravity, she ran 4 or 5 steps on the wall and went around the security. Everyone was dumbfounded. Chen Zhao was probably the only one who was clear-headed. Go away. Don't block the way. Chen Zhao charged past the security and pushed them away. The nurse carried the child and rushed into the stairs. Chen Zhao chased after her, but she didn't run down. Instead, she ran up. The security couldn't keep up with the nurse and Chen Zhao at all. They chased all the way to the rooftop. The nurse carried Chen Zhao's daughter and stood at the edge. Chapter 769. The security guards arrived a minute later. After climbing a few floors, these security guards were exhausted to the point of suffocation. Neither Chen Zhao's words nor the security guards' threats could make the nurse put down the baby. Alex drove to the hospital, but she realized that there were many people crowding downstairs. She couldn't drive in either. She could only get out of the car and look at the rooftop with the crowd. It seemed to be a woman holding a child and standing at the edge of the rooftop. At this moment, the female nurse was holding the baby girl in one hand, and the fingers of her other hand started to draw blood on her forehead. Salis Kalayek. To others it was hard to understand, but Chen Zhao understood it. Great Satan, your people are praying to you and offering you the purest sacrifice. With that, the nurse suddenly threw Chen Zhao's daughter off the rooftop. Chen Zhao rushed over and pounced on his daughter, who was outside the rooftop. Ah! The security guards exclaimed. They didn't expect Chen Zhao to pounce on their daughter. They were on the 10th floor, 30 to 40 meters from the ground. Chen Zhao hurriedly put his daughter on his chest. At the same time, he used the dark serum to cushion his and his daughter's chests. Based on his physical strength, if he fell to the ground with his daughter in his arms, even if his daughter was protected by his chest, the impact would still hurt his daughter. However, the darkness original fluid was different. The darkness original fluid was very flexible. Chen Zhao couldn't guarantee that she wouldn't be hurt, but he could at least make sure that she wouldn't die. When Alex saw the baby girl being thrown down, she was also startled. But the next moment, she saw Chen Zhao rush down from the rooftop. Alex's eyes were filled with disbelief. Bang! Everyone saw Chen Zhao fall heavily onto the roof of the car with the baby in his arms. And this car happened to be Alex's car. Wah! The moment Chen Zhao's daughter landed on the roof, she burst into tears. Looking at the bloody Chen Zhao, Alex sat up from the roof of the car. Her eyes were still filled with disbelief and shock. Just then, many people rushed out of the hospital, including doctors. Sir, give me the child. Both you and your daughter need treatment. No, I don't trust any of you right now, Chen Zhao rejected directly. Your nurse almost killed my daughter. Sir, you fell from the 10th floor. You need treatment now. No, I don't need treatment. Chen Zhao's attitude was firm. Chen Zhao carried his daughter and started examining her. Fortunately, although they had experienced danger, his daughter was not injured. It was just that when he landed, he was startled. At this moment, the nurse also landed on the ground. However, she fell directly to the ground. Chen Zhao glanced at the nurse. She was in a daze. However, Chen Zhao was sure that she was a believer of some cult. The doctors and security guards didn't force Chen Zhao to hand over the baby. After all, Chen Zhao was the child's father. His actions just now were enough to prove that he was a good father. At least, he would risk his life to protect his child. A shy nurse came to Chen Zhao's side and helped him bandage the wound on his head. Sir, I need to check your brain for a concussion. After all, you fell from such a high place. I'm fine, Chen Zhao said. We'll send the best security to protect your daughter. I don't trust your hospital's security, Chen Zhao said. Anyway, I won't let my daughter out of my sight. I'll carry her. Just then Alex walked in. Don't tell me you don't even trust me? Chen Zhao looked at Alex. After a moment of silence, he said, You can carry her, but you also can't leave my sight. Alex was quite displeased with Chen Zhao's attitude. However, Chen Zhao's actions just now were indeed admirable. Of course, this didn't mean that she would give up her custody of Zhilin's daughter because of this. After the examination, the doctor realized that Chen Zhao really only had a skin wound. He had fallen from such a high place and landed on his back, but it was really just a skin wound. Of course, Alex's car had given him a huge cushion. If not for the car, even Chen Zhao would have been injured. However, to the doctor, he was lucky not to fall to his death. On the other hand, Chen Zhao only had minor injuries. It was a miracle. Sir, you're so strong. The nurse touched Chen Zhao's chest. Her expression seemed to be a little moved. Usually, American girls were very direct when it came to expressing their feelings. Alex rolled her eyes. Chen Zhao didn't respond either. The police came and asked Chen Zhao a simple question. Then Chen Zhao called Dr. John over. Dr. John, I need to take the child away now. Mr. Chen, your procedures haven't been completed yet. Then I'll sue your hospital. Chen Zhao didn't plan on reasoning with Dr. John. His daughter had almost lost her life because of their mistakes. How could he reason with them? Chen Zhao didn't expect that his first contact with his daughter would be under such circumstances. Dr. John, you better find another job now, because I'll sue this hospital until it goes bankrupt. Mr. Chen, can I report this to the director? I can't make the decision. I don't want to wait too long. I'll give you 20 minutes. Dr. John hurriedly ran away. Alex glanced at Chen Zhao. She was still hugging little Zhilin. You haven't gotten the adoption documents yet, so you don't have the right to sue yet. Give me the child. I haven't hugged my daughter enough. Alex looked at the child in her arms and finally gave it back to Chen Zhao. As soon as the girl returned to Chen Zhao's arms, she immediately started giggling. She tried to touch Chen Zhao's cheek with her soft hands. Why did you break up with Zhilin? Alex asked. We can't be considered boyfriend and girlfriend. She's just an accident. I didn't even know of her existence before this. If you think that she's an accident, I don't mind adopting her. No, Chen Zhao replied firmly. Since I already know who my daughter is, I won't let her stay with someone else all alone. Name your price. Chen Zhao glanced at Alex. You'll have a child in the future too. It's immoral to take a child away from her parents. Chapter 770. A while later, Dr. Johann returned. Mr. Chen, the director has agreed, but before the adoption certificate, please don't leave San Francisco. Okay, got it. Chen Zhao carried his daughter out of the hospital. Just then, Alex's car stopped before Chen Zhao. Where are you staying tonight? Didn't I smash your car just now? It's not a car. What's so strange about that? Alex said. If you don't have a place to stay, you can stay at my place tonight. No, Chen Zhao rejected. I plan on staying at a hotel. Get in. My place isn't a tiger's den. I'm just a stranger to you, right? How can I bring a stranger home without worry? You can save my Jerlin. I believe you're not a bad person. Chen Zhao sat in Alex's car. Who named Jerlin? Jerlin? No, I did. I think it suits her, Alex said. Chen Zhao considered whether to accept the name. Jerlin Chen? Her Chinese name would be Chen Jerlin? Or Chen Go or Chen Lin. Chen Zhao caressed his daughter's cheek. Perhaps she was the continuation of Jerlin's life. Okay, I'll call her Jerlin from now on. Chen Zhao thought about it. Let's go to the supermarket and buy some milk powder and baby products. Yeah, I almost forgot. Alex's house was in a duplex apartment building. From the environment and location of this duplex apartment building, it could be seen that Alex's income was quite high. After putting down his luggage in the guest room, Chen Zhao took out his phone. West, bring all the people from the association to San Francisco tomorrow. President, why are we going to San Francisco? A public holiday, Chen Zhao said. Really? Of course. Just then Alex knocked on the door. Only then did Chen Zhao realize that Alex was standing at the door. Thankfully, he didn't say anything over the phone. I made a bottle of milk powder for Jerlin. Thank you. Chen Zhao took the bottle and Alex asked, Oh, do you want something to eat? Anything. A moment later, Alex saw Chen Zhao carrying Jerlin into the dining room. You can put her down for now. I'm absolutely safe here. Maybe I'm too nervous, Chen Zhao said. Alex looked at Chen Zhao. She knew that if Chen Zhao wasn't there for the accident today, Jerlin might have died. Therefore, she acknowledged Chen Zhao as her father. Perhaps he was still acting inexperienced now, but at least he was willing to sacrifice for little Jerlin. What do you teach at UCLA? Chinese medicine. The next day, when Alex woke up, she found little Jerlin on the sofa. Just when she thought that Chen Zhao was being irresponsible, she realized that he was working out in the gym through the glass door. Alex laughed self-deprecatingly. This guy was probably a slave to his daughter. Even when it came to fitness, he had to keep an eye on his daughter. Where do you need to go today? I'll see you off. No. Chen Zhao shook his head. I have my own things to do. All right then. Alex looked back at Jerlin. I won't give up on Jerlin. Chen Zhao glanced at Alex. I won't either. Chen Zhao put down the barbell in his hand. Are the things in your gym all this light? She rolled her eyes at Chen Zhao. This was for her own use. Of course, there wouldn't be any male equipment. My house's password is 544,211. If you want to come back, you can come in yourself. Chen Zhao shrugged. Then Alex went to work. How's the Asian I asked you to investigate? Chen Zhao China. He has a green card and is a professor at UCLA. He's also an illegal doctor. Ah, he's an illegal doctor? That's right. Alex hesitated. Should she use this point as a point of attack? Do you have direct evidence? No. His customers are all rich. My people can't even come into contact with rich people, let alone get them to testify. Does he have any other bad records? No criminal record. But he killed someone in self-defense and went to the police. Are there any loopholes? No. His killing process was recorded by surveillance cameras. Also, the person he killed was an internationally wanted criminal with a very bad crime. So it was perfectly justifiable for him to kill someone. Alex was a bit disappointed but also glad. She didn't have a bad impression of Chen Zhao. If she used murder as an attack point, she might destroy him. How's his work attitude? How's his reputation at UCLA? He's very influential in UCLA and has a very good personal relationship with the principal of UCLA. What about his family? And his private life? The place where he lives is quite remote. It's his private territory, but my people went to the town where he lives to inquire. It's said that he's very rich and has a very luxurious villa. At the same time, he seems to have a lot of pets. Do you have a pet? Alex thought to herself that people who kept pets were generally gentler in nature. This was how Americans thought. Those who had pets were all good people. What about his relationships? I can't find out, but according to the townspeople, the road to his house often has luxurious cars. Is there any other information? His girlfriend is a member of the coastal rescue team. Her name is Faye Jones. She has no bad records. He's like a blank piece of paper, Alex said, somewhat annoyed. What a headache. If she only used a legal medical practice as an attack point, it wouldn't be enough. She would at least need a witness or evidence. But that would be the most difficult. How did he meet my sister? When he first came to America, he met your sister, Jerlyn. At the time, they met because of a fugitive, and since then, they have been in a relationship. The police in the previous police station where your sister and this Chinese man were previously and knew about their relationship, and the people in that police station also knew this Chinese man. How did they break up? Later, your sister came to San Francisco, and they broke up because of that. Between your sister leaving L.A. and the accident, they only talked 4 times. They probably broke up because of the distance. Does he have any mental illness or something like that? Chapter 771. President, we're at the gate now. Where are you? I see you guys. Walk a few more steps. I'm at the outside of the gate. No. Where are you? Wes looked around but still didn't see Chen Zhao. President, did you use some invisibility spell? Suddenly Wes felt a hard kick on his butt. Looking back, he realized that Chen Zhao was right behind him with a baby in his arms. Because Chen Zhao was carrying the child, Wes subconsciously ignored Chen Zhao. This was actually a blind spot. It wasn't a curved corner. It was visual information that the mind automatically ignored. President. All the members stared at Chen Zhao dumbfounded. A president carrying a child. Was he an imposter? This was completely different from Chen Zhao's persona. My daughter, Chen Zhao said. Chen, is there some kind of spell that can make someone pregnant and give birth in a few days? Gaia looked at Chen Zhao with glowing eyes. Can you cast one on me too? I want a child too, but a 10-month pregnancy is too long. There's no spell. It's not my and Faylai's child. President, did you cheat behind Madam's back? Fuck, I didn't cheat. Chen Zhao glared at West. If you dare to spout nonsense again, I'll rip your mouth off. Why do I feel like this isn't a vacation? West's mood suddenly turned sour. Who said it wasn't a vacation? Chen Zhao said. I'm making it up to you guys for the trip to New York last time. Of course, there's also a small mission. Everyone should have guessed it. As expected, this wasn't a vacation at all. What mission? Yesterday, a cultist threw my daughter off the roof of the hospital. Everyone gasped. They weren't surprised that Chen Zhao's daughter was still alive. They were shocked that someone dared to treat Chen Zhao's daughter like that. Find them. I'm going to tear them apart, all of them. Chen Zhao looked at everyone. Can you do it? Everyone saw the horror and savagery on Chen Zhao's face. After all, even when facing the source of the fallen, Chen Zhao was still smiling mischievously most of the time. This made them think that Chen Zhao would never be serious. But now, they realized that it wasn't that Chen Zhao couldn't be serious. But when he was serious, he was actually a little scary. Clearly, Chen Zhao was really angry this time. However, this was understandable. He threw Chen Zhao's daughter off the roof. How big of a heart did he have to be to dare to do this? Was Chen Zhao really going to start a massacre this time? Hopefully there aren't too many people in this cult. Even West didn't dare to say anything now. He could really feel the anger in Chen Zhao's tone. Go and find them for me. Yes, guild leader. None of them were in the mood for a vacation. If they didn't help Chen Zhao, they didn't know how he would punish them. Alright, don't be so nervous. Find a hotel to stay in first. I'm not in a hurry. Take your time. Haha, no hurry. Whoever would take Chen Zhao's words seriously was an idiot. They didn't want Chen Zhao to ask them if they had any news. After arriving at the hotel, they weren't in the mood to enjoy themselves. They gathered in West's room for a meeting. Which direction should we start investigating? Pamela asked. She'd come this time too. She'd wanted to take a vacation. She didn't expect to encounter something like this. However, she also wanted to help out in this matter. After all, she didn't do much in the previous operations. As a result, she didn't have a high presence in the association. But she couldn't do anything about it. The previous operations were to hunt down the family, the second was in New York, and the third was to deal with the source of the fallen. She wasn't suitable to participate in any of them. This time, they finally had a chance to deal with the cult. Everyone had no idea how to investigate at all. Even Gaia didn't know where to start. West thought for a moment and said, "The only clue now is that cultist." The guild leader said she fell to her death. We can investigate her relationships, her social circle, her family and friends. I'll go to the police station and get their files, West said. West, can we also get the police files? Of course, West said proudly. In an abandoned church in the suburbs of San Francisco. The church was in a mess. The cross in front was already crooked. There were dozens of people gathered here, all wearing black robes. The foreheads of these black-robed men were all engraved with different patterns using daggers. They were all Satanists. Just from the name, one could tell that it was a cult. Although America had freedom of religion, it also gave birth to many weird, and even evil religious groups. Satanism was like this. Satanism's doctrine was the destruction of the world. Their actions were similar to terrorists. Of course, they wouldn't set off bombs or anything like that. But their actions weren't any worse than terrorists. Dozens of cultists gathered in front of the magic formation in the center, chanting demonic incantations. It was a satanic prayer, like a monk's or a Christian's prayer. Just then, a black-robed man walked out and said loudly, "Devil failed. She didn't sacrifice to our God. She wasn't devout enough. Her heart wasn't pure enough. Her soul will be punished. She won't be saved by our God before the apocalypse." The black-robed man looked at the other believers. Lord Serreras can't wait any longer. In order to help Lord Serreras return from the void as soon as possible, you must work harder to find those babies who meet the requirements and sacrifice them to His Majesty Satan. Leader, all the hospitals in the city are on high alert, a cultist said. It's hard for the people we've planted in the hospitals to succeed. Excuses, the black-robed man yelled. You haven't even tried. Yet you think you can't do it. This only means that you're not devout enough. Who steps forward to receive His Majesty's gift? The black-robed man looked at the cultists. The cultists stared at the black-robed man with burning eyes. They knew what the so-called gift was. It was the power they dreamed of, the magical power that surpassed ordinary people. A dozen cultists stepped forward. I'm willing to serve His Majesty. Chapter 772. Alex, I'm going to move to a hotel. Chen Zhao called her. Why? Alex asked, dissatisfied. I just don't think it's convenient. Don't go yet. I'll come back now. She didn't have a good chance of fighting for custody with Chen Zhao. Now that Chen Zhao was moving out with little Jerlin, she would have even fewer chances to interact with Jerlin. Chen Zhao and Alex had nothing to do with each other. Their only connection was little Jerlin. Chen Zhao didn't plan on provoking Alex either, so he had to draw a line first. Plus, Alex was going to fight for little Jerlin. They'd definitely have to fight in court in the future. It was better to draw a line as soon as possible. Chen Zhao took his luggage and picked up little Jerlin, leaving Alex's place. As soon as he walked out of the apartment, he suddenly felt someone watching him. Chen Zhao turned his head and realized that the gaze came from an official car across the street. There were 3 people in the car, and they were all armed. Did they recognize him? At this moment, the 3 people in the car also frowned. What's wrong with that guy? Did he notice us? Impossible. He can't see inside the car. Should we capture him to threaten that woman? Sure, let's do it. The 3 got out of the car and looked around. Then they walked toward Chen Zhao. We're the police, one of the bearded men said. Please come with us. Let me see your IDs. Chen Zhao said. Kid, behave yourself. The other man's hand was already on Chen Zhao's shoulder. The 3 clearly didn't think much of Chen Zhao. After all, he was carrying his luggage with one hand, and carrying a child with the other. But Chen Zhao smashed the suitcase on the man's head. The other two immediately took out their guns. The gun was even equipped with a silencer. The police wouldn't equip their guns with silencers. Chen Zhao reacted quickly and snatched the bearded man's gun away. He also broke the man's wrist. Bayu bia bubiu. Chen Zhao first shot the bearded man's thigh. Then he shot the other person 4 times. His hands and feet were all pierced by Chen Zhao. At this moment, Alex drove her car over. Chen, what's going on? Hearing that Chen Zhao was leaving, Alex hurried back. In the end, she saw this scene, which gave her a fright. I suspect that they're related to the people who want to hurt Zhilin, Chen Zhao said indifferently. They disguised themselves as police and were about to attack me. At this moment, another SUV stopped. Gaia and the others got out of the car. They were here to help Chen Zhao with his things. Alex looked at Gaia and the others and found that she couldn't tell who they were. It felt like this group of people was a hodgepodge. There were men and women, adults and even children in this group. But when they saw the 3 people lying in a pool of blood, they were not afraid at all. After all, Chen Zhao was still holding a gun. Just then they came before Chen Zhao. It seemed that they knew Chen Zhao. Chen, what's going on? Drag them into the car, Chen Zhao said. The 3 of them were pulled into the car by Gaia and the others. Alex, okay. We'll meet again if there's a chance. What are you going to do to them? Investigate, of course. Wait. I think I remember. I know one of them. You know him? Chen Zhao looked at Alex in confusion. I think they work for the defendant in one of my cases, Alex said. I'm the plaintiff's lawyer. So they're here to threaten you? Chen Zhao asked. Are you sure? I think so. Alex wasn't very sure. Chen Zhao walked to the car and said to Gaia. Ask them where they came from. They already said that someone called Jason sent them. They want to capture you to threaten that lady. Who's this Jason? Chen Zhao asked. President, leave it to me, West said hurriedly. You don't need to do anything. You can do it alone. Chen Zhao was very doubtful of West. President, just leave it to me. I promise that this guy will go to jail in 3 days and never come out. Alex was very doubtful of West's words. What was this guy's background? Even the Supreme Court's judge wouldn't dare to say that he could send Jason to jail in 3 days. West had no choice but to agree. If they just wanted to capture Chen Zhao, it wouldn't be a big deal. They even wanted to capture Chen Zhao's daughter. Didn't they know that Chen Zhao had been very irritable recently? Did they want to drag their gang down with them? If Chen Zhao found their boss territory, blood would flow like a river. If Chen Zhao killed dozens, or even hundreds of gang members, blood would flow like a river. Even if they were all gang members, it didn't mean that everyone deserved to die. Just thinking about the consequences made West's hair stand on end. That was why he'd volunteered to take the job. What do we do with these 3? Chen Zhao asked. West held his gun and fired 3 shots. Then he looked up at Alex. Miss, you can call the police now. Ah! Alex was shocked by West's ruthless methods. She'd thought that Chen Zhao's gang would kill her. At the very least, they would threaten her. But West's words left her at a loss. Really call the police? Yes, Chen Zhao said. West, Chen Zhao said. I'll leave you here. Bye, Alex. Alex looked at West hesitantly. Do you need me to say it? No. Just tell me the truth. Really? Tell me the truth. Alex was stunned. The police came. West talked to them directly. Then he was brought into the police car. But not long later, West got out of the car. Alex couldn't figure out who West was. Why did he have so much power? Oh, he seemed to have called Chen Zhao president earlier. Who was Chen Zhao? He had the same power as the police. No, he had more power than the police. Even the police couldn't keep shooting when the criminals couldn't fight back. But West didn't care at all. He killed the 3 people directly. They must be from some government department. Were they spies or something? Chapter 773. The next day, Alex received a piece of news. The case she was in charge of had been closed. This gave her a fright. She had originally thought that Jason had been released. But after asking around, she found out that there was a major breakthrough in the case. Jason didn't just have the previous crimes. He was also charged with treason. Then he committed suicide in the detention center. The news scared Alex. She immediately stopped her previous plan. This Chen Zhao was too scary. Jason was a rich man. He'd hired a powerful team of lawyers. She'd tangled with Jason for more than half a year, but still couldn't convict him. In the end, in just one night, Jason died in prison. Alex wasn't a kid. She didn't believe that Jason would commit suicide to escape punishment. This was simply impossible. If they wanted to defeat Chen Zhao by collecting his dark history, they would be digging their own graves. Jason's 3 subordinates had been shot to death on the street because they'd offended Chen Zhao. Even Jason hadn't been able to escape. Alex didn't know how that person had done it either, but she was sure that the person was very powerful. And that person was Chen Zhao's subordinate. It was obvious that West couldn't compare to Chen Zhao's power. "President, you're not going to do anything?" West realized that Chen Zhao had really left everything to them. Meanwhile, Chen Zhao carried little Jerlin and walked here and there every day. It was like he'd thrown everything to the back of his mind. "I have to take care of the child. What do you want me to do? What if my daughter is in danger? Are you responsible?" West didn't say anything. If Chen Zhao's daughter was really in danger, he really couldn't bear the responsibility. "How's the thing I asked you to investigate?" "We found out that 2 of the cultists' accomplices were in Santa Maria Hospital, but they've disappeared. We also found out that their organization is called Satanism." "It doesn't sound like anything good," Chen Zhao said. "Do you have any more clues?" "Not yet." "Then hurry up and investigate," Chen Zhao said. Just then Chen Zhao's phone rang. "Mr. Chen, I'm John. Are you free now? Your adoption documents are ready, but you need to sign them." "Oh, and you'd better bring your daughter here too." "Okay, I'll be right there." Although Jerlin was Chen Zhao's actual daughter, society was like this. Without these documents, Chen Zhao wasn't Jerlin's legal father. Of course, if something happened to the adoption certificate, he couldn't guarantee that he wouldn't use other methods to take the child back. After all, Jerlin was his daughter. As long as the law could recognize them as father and daughter, Chen Zhao didn't mind following the law. But if the law couldn't uphold justice for him, he didn't feel the need to follow unreasonable laws. Chen Zhao excitedly brought Jerlin to the hospital. There were a few people in Dr. John's office. These people were from the child adoption agency. Chen Zhao communicated with them for a while. They mainly asked about his personal information, such as his job, income, and family situation. Chen Zhao's information on the surface was very beautiful. Other than the fact that he was still single, the rest of the information was almost perfect. Usually adoption agencies preferred married people to adopt children. Of course, Chen Zhao was Jerlin's biological father, not an orphan. Therefore, being single wasn't that important. Moreover, Chen Zhao's income, job, and living environment were all important factors. "Mr. Chen, have you and your girlfriend considered getting married?" "Yes," Chen Zhao answered. "We'll consider getting married in the next 2 years." Marriage wasn't just for one person. Plus, Chen Zhao wouldn't force Fei Lai to get married just for Jerlin. That would be disrespectful to Fei Lai. Chen Zhao hoped that he would fully consider Fei Lai's thoughts and stance on marriage. He didn't want to say, "Give me the child and I'll get married immediately." "Then have you and your girlfriend considered having children?" "Yes, that's also in our plan." "What does your girlfriend do for a living?" "She's a member of the Coast Rescue Team. She belongs to the LA Angel Coast Rescue Team. She's a very kind person. She saved 20 people last month." These adoption agencies had a scoring scale. Generally speaking, if the child was above the passing line, they would be able to get custody. Fei Lai's work was also very good. Hearing Fei Lai's answer, the few people nodded in satisfaction. "Then do you or your girlfriend have any bad habits? For example, alcoholism?" "You should have already gotten my information. My girlfriend and I don't pursue pleasure from that kind of stuff. We're both very healthy. We don't have any bad habits, including marijuana." Marijuana was very common in America. For example, the former president, Obama Guanhai, had smoked it when he was young. In fact, in the entire American society, more than 100 million people had smoked or tried it. At least 35 million people would try it a few times a month. California had just legalized marijuana this year. There was a saying in America, "If you haven't tried marijuana, it's like you haven't gone to college." Chen Zhao did not comment on this, but he had never liked such things. He didn't flaunt his morals. After all, he wasn't a white sheep who'd just arrived in America. Right now, he was a wolf in sheep's clothing. However, in this kind of situation, one's own lifestyle was also a very big plus. Mr. Chun, I heard from the hospital that you jumped from the 10th floor to save your daughter when you saw her for the first time. Is that right? As a father, I can't let my child die in front of me. I just did what a father should do. To be honest, the people in the adoption agency had been working for a long time, but they had never seen an adopter with such a perfect record. Chen Zhao had even used his actions to prove that he was a good father. At least, he would protect his daughter at all costs. Even if Chen Zhao was Asian, they had no reason to reject his request. Please sign this document, a bespectacled woman said. Then you can take your daughter back. Chapter 774. Carrying little Jerlin, Chen Zhao walked to the door and shook hands with the people from the adoption agency again. Just then, someone touched Chen Zhao's back. Chen Zhao turned around and saw a male caretaker hurrying over with a baby in his arms. Chen Zhao reached out and grabbed the caretaker's shoulder. The caretaker turned to look at Chen Zhao. Sir, what's wrong? Where are you taking the child? Chen Zhao asked. Oh, the child's mother is waiting downstairs. I'm taking the child to see her. His mother is taking him out of the hospital. Why do you have to take him down? Why isn't she carrying him herself? The caretaker's expression changed. He shoved Chen Zhao away and tried to escape. Behind them, Dr. John's expression changed drastically. He immediately realized that this was another case of stealing a baby. Grab him. Chen Zhao grabbed the caretaker's shoulder tightly. The caretaker couldn't break free at all. The caretaker's shoulder was almost crushed by Chen Zhao's grip. Chen Zhao was still carrying the child in one hand, and the caretaker was also carrying the child. Therefore, Chen Zhao couldn't do anything else. The only thing Chen Zhao could do now was to grab the caretaker, so that he couldn't exert any force. This was to prevent him from hurting the child in his arms. The hospital's security guards came and snatched the child from the caretaker's arms. The other two guards pressed the caretaker to the ground. Only then did Chen Zhao let go. Just then, the woman from the adoption agency said, Mr. Chun, how did you know there's something wrong with him? The child's mother is a police officer, Chen Zhao said, smiling. Chen Zhao said with a smile. But when he said this, he felt a little upset. Although he and Jerlin had parted on good terms, he never thought that he wouldn't even have the chance to see her one last time. It was as if Jerlin had been having fun with him yesterday, but today, they would never see each other again. Suddenly, the caretaker who had been pressed down by the two guards flipped them over. He jumped up and pounced at the guard who was carrying the child. Give it to me. This is Satan's gift. Give it to me. Chen Zhao couldn't just stand by now. He turned little Jerlin's head to his chest and stepped forward, kicking out. Bang! Chen Zhao's kick landed on the male nurse's chest. Everyone could hear the sound of his bones cracking. Then, he flew out and smashed into the wall behind him. When he fell back to the ground, he was no longer breathing. Oh no, I was too heavy-handed. In that instant, Chen Zhao didn't think too much. In a moment of hot-headedness, he struck heavily. Or rather heavily kicked. The power of this kick was probably 3 tons. The man's injuries were probably similar to being hit by a truck. Mr. Chun, I can testify for you. You're trying to protect a child, the woman from the adoption agency said. Yes, I can also testify for you. I think what you did was right. Those who hurt children should not be forgiven, another person said. Thank you. Actually, Chen Zhao wasn't worried about being punished. The real reason why he felt that he was too heavy-handed was because he wanted to keep them alive. However, with this kick, the male nurse's internal organs would probably be smashed to pieces. Mr. Chen, this is my name card. If you're punished for this incident, you can call me no matter where or when. I'm willing to testify for you at any time. Thank you, Ms. Mara. Chen Zhao only knew the woman's name after looking at the card. Mara and the other people from the adoption agency waited until the police arrived and helped Chen Zhao prove the whole story before leaving. As for the cultist, he was indeed hopeless. Chen Zhao had sent him to God with a kick. or send him to see his master Satan. Before Chen Zhao walked out of the hospital, Gaia and West arrived. President, I heard that there's a cultist here. How is it? Did you catch him? West asked anxiously. Yes, I caught him. Chen Zhao nodded. Where is he? Did the police take him away? No, he's still in the hospital. Oh, did you injure him? Which room is he in? West asked. The morgue. Chen, you killed the cultist. I accidentally hit him too hard. West cursed inwardly. Whose fault was this? We've helped you run around so hard, but you're here messing around. Whatever, you're the boss. We can't afford to offend you. Where are the others? Chen Zhao asked. They went to other hospitals, West said. I suspect that it's not just Santa Maria Hospital that had a baby theft incident. It might be happening in other hospitals too. Let me know if there's any news, Chen Zhao said. Just then, Alex's car stopped before Chen Zhao. Get in. Chen Zhao could tell from Alex's tone that she was very unhappy. She must have known that he had gotten custody of her. Congratulations, Alex said reluctantly after driving for a few blocks. If she wanted custody again, Chen Zhao would have to make a mistake. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to be Jerlin's guardian anymore. Alex, you'll have your own children in the future. Why steal Jerlin from me? I won't have children, Alex said, somewhat disappointed. Is there something wrong with your fertility? I'm a doctor. If you need it, maybe I can treat you. There's nothing wrong with my fertility. The problem is my sexual orientation. So she's a lesbian. Chen Zhao didn't expect that. Maybe you can consider a child from an orphanage. According to California law, both gays and lesbians had the right to adopt orphans. This is Jerlin's death report and the information I've gathered these days. Chen Zhao took a folder and took out the documents inside. Jerlin had been 9 months pregnant at the time, but she was still working. Chen Zhao was a bit annoyed. Jerlin's actions were completely suicidal. Now, she was really going to die. Chen Zhao was in a bad mood. The gunman had shot her 3 times. After she was sent to the hospital, she underwent a laparotomy and treatment for her gunshot wounds, but she still couldn't escape death. Is there a suspect? Chen Zhao asked. Cisco Owen was supposed to be serving his sentence in prison. When Jerlin's accident happened, he had just escaped from prison for a day. He escaped because he was being transferred to another prison. But with his crimes, he shouldn't have been transferred to Beer Prison. Beer Prison is a prison for misdemeanors. But Cisco Owen is a serious criminal. He's killed and raped many times. There's no reason to transfer him to Beer Prison. Chapter 775. Chen Zhao continued flipping through the documents. Cisco Owen's behavior in prison could be described as terrible. Plus, with his crimes, he didn't have the right to be transferred to a light prison. But the warden actually signed Cisco Owen's transfer request. This meant that there was something wrong with the warden. Someone must have bribed the warden. Otherwise, he'd be muddle-headed to sign the request. Do you have a way to find out? Alex asked. I'll try, Chen Zhao said. Do you need me to take care of little Jerlin? Chen Zhao shook his head. San Francisco isn't peaceful recently. There's a group of people who specialize in kidnapping kids. I can't let Jerlin leave my sight. It's a society ruled by law. They can't kidnap kids on the streets, right? Unfortunately, there was another kidnapping incident in the hospital just now, Chen Zhao said. Another one? Yes, so it's best to be careful. Who knows when another lunatic will pop up? Fine, but is it convenient for you to investigate with a kid like this? Aren't you afraid that Jerlin will be in danger? As long as she's by my side, she won't be in danger. Alex didn't know where Chen Zhao's confidence came from. But now that custody and custody weren't in her hands, what could she do? Of course, Chen Zhao wouldn't go find the warden directly. Chen Zhao brought Pamela to the warden's neighborhood. It was getting dark. Chen Zhao wasn't familiar with the neighborhood, so he couldn't find the warden's house number after searching for a long time. Pamela, go find that old bastard's house. It should be nearby. Pamela floated out. Just then, there were a few gunshots in the distance. Chen Zhao immediately perked up. Pamela floated back. President, that old bastard's entire family is dead. Where's the killer? Chen Zhao asked. Gone. The killer is very professional. He ran into the forest from the backyard. Damn, someone beat him to it. Wait. It had already been half a month since Jerlin's accident. Nothing had happened to the warden. Why now? Only he and Alex knew that Chun Zhao wanted to investigate the warden. He definitely wouldn't leak the secret. The only one who could have leaked the information was Alex. But that didn't make sense. Alex couldn't have leaked the secret. Even if he was fighting with her for custody of little Jerlin, there was no need for her to be so ruthless. Moreover, if he was in danger, little Jerlin would be in danger as well. To put it bluntly, they were people with a bottom line, so Alex wouldn't do that. Chun Zhao thought of a possibility. The documents that Alex had given him. The culprit must have found out about this when she was looking for the documents. That was why he was the first to get rid of the prison warden. Oh no. If that's the case, Alex will be in danger too. Jerlin had been killed while investigating this matter. Now Alex might also be in danger. Chun Zhao immediately turned around and called Alex at the same time. Alex, are you home now? You might be in danger. No matter who knocks on the door, don't answer. What's wrong? Alex asked, confused. When I arrived at the prison warden's house, the killer beat me to it. The prison warden's entire family has gone to meet God. Knock knock. Just then, he heard someone knocking on the door. Someone's knocking on my door. Alex became nervous too. Don't open the door. Wait for me. Chun Zhao only hoped that Alex's security door could last a little longer. At the moment, a few sneaky figures were outside Alex's door. I can't open it. It's a password lock. A bald man shook his head, troubled. Just then another person stood out. He took out a silencer and fired at the lock. The bullet bounced back and almost hit one of their own. Fuck, it's useless. Is this a security door? Why does it feel like a vault door? This is a high-end apartment building. The people here are all rich. Whatever, let's go. That woman must have called the police already. We don't have time. These people made a prompt decision and immediately turned around to leave. They didn't hesitate at all. It wasn't impossible for them to force their way in, but they weren't confident that they could break through the door in a short time. If they took too long, and the police came, they wouldn't be able to escape even if they wanted to. They walked out of the apartment building. A man carrying a child walked toward them, but when the man saw them, he stood still. Did that man notice something wrong with us? One of them asked suspiciously. Who cares? If he dares to mess around, I'll give him a bullet. The few people swaggered toward Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao gently caressed Jerlin in his arms. She was sleeping soundly. The more they walked, the slower they became. They could already feel Chun Zhao's gaze. It wasn't a gaze of suspicion, but a gaze of confirmation. He knew their background and identity. The leader of the criminals looked around. There was no one else around, and there were no surveillance cameras. He pointed his gun at Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao looked at him. You don't have a silencer. Ah, I like guns without silencers. But suddenly, darkness engulfed the man. Oh. It was as if asphalt had been poured on his head. It instantly engulfed the leader. Then, the darkness engulfed the man completely. The remaining four hurriedly pointed their guns at Chun Zhao. Panic and disbelief were written all over their faces. Chun Zhao looked at the four before him. Who doesn't have a silencer? Put it on yourself. If you disturb my daughter when you shoot, I'll make you disappear into the darkness forever. The four's legs trembled as they stared at Chun Zhao in fear. They didn't even dare to shoot. They just kept trembling. Open. One of them was about to call his partner to shoot, but he was immediately swallowed by the darkness again. I said, don't shoot without a silencer. The three paled in fear. Looking at their guns, they immediately threw them away. Don't kill us. Tell me who sent you. The three of them looked at each other, all hesitating. Forget it. This isn't the place to interrogate. The dark prime fluid surrounded the three of them once again. Without any resistance, the three of them were completely engulfed by the dark prime fluid and disappeared into the darkness. Chun Zhao stuffed all five of them into the trunk. As for whether the trunk would be too crowded, he didn't feel it, so it didn't matter. Chapter 776. Seeing that no one had spoken for a long time, Alex first looked outside through the door. Was there no one outside? There seemed to be some noise downstairs. She ran to the balcony and looked down. It was already dark, but Alex still saw Chen Zhao get out of the car. Then she saw Chen Zhao, who was carrying little Jerlin, face off with a few people. They were pointing their weapons at Chen Zhao, but because they were quite far away, she couldn't see clearly. Alex didn't know what to do, but something strange happened. She didn't know what was going on either. Chen Zhao didn't do anything, but the people put down their guns. Then she saw Chen Zhao drag 5 people into the trunk with one hand. They seemed to be tied up with black ropes. Alex immediately rushed downstairs. She only had time to see Chen Zhao's rear lights. Alex immediately returned to the garage and chased after Chen Zhao in her car. There weren't many cars on the road. Although Alex had to drive for a few minutes, she still found Chen Zhao's car. She followed him all the way to a rather desolate suburb. Just then Alex's phone rang. "Alex, why are you following me?" Chen Zhao's voice came from the other end. "You know I'm following you?" "Of course. This road is so secluded. Unless I'm blind, there's only 2 headlights. I saw you arrest 5 people. Are you going to call the police?" "No, they're all related to Jerlin's death." Alex wasn't a law-abiding person. In fact, not many lawyers would actually follow the law completely. Their job was to find loopholes in the law. Just then, Chen Zhao stopped the car and Alex followed. "You shouldn't be here." Chen Zhao carried little Jerlin and looked at Alex, who ran over. "Why can't I be here? You even brought little Jerlin here. She doesn't know anything. Also look, she's already asleep. What do we do next?" "Carry the child." Chen Zhao shoved little Jerlin into Alex's arms. When he opened the trunk, the 5 people were about to become deformed. The trunk was only so big, and the 5 of them weren't small. If they were locked in for another 20 minutes, they would probably suffocate. Alex was a bit puzzled. She clearly saw that these 5 people were tied up with black ropes. How could they disappear now? "Forget it, maybe I'm seeing things." Chen Zhao dragged a person down. The man screamed in fear. "Wow!" Little Jerlin was startled awake, and then she burst into tears. Alex hurriedly comforted little Jerlin. Chen Zhao grabbed the man's mouth. "Please don't make any noise. You're scaring my daughter." Alex looked at Chen Zhao. "He did wake your daughter up, but you scared him so much that he peed his pants." The 4 people in the trunk listened to the screams outside, which were far scarier than the ones outside. Humans' greatest fear came from the unknown. They didn't know what was going on outside, so they were more afraid than facing Chen Zhao directly. Alex didn't know what Chen Zhao was doing either. He seemed to be stuffing something into the man's mouth. Then, the man began to struggle and spasm, but he couldn't make a sound. "Alex, do you want to rest in the car?" Chen Zhao asked. "I don't need it. But my little Jerlin needs it." Chen Zhao looked at Alex. Alex thought about it and returned to the car. She probably understood what Chen Zhao was thinking. It wasn't convenient for an outsider like her to participate in some things. Perhaps the following scene would be very cruel. Alex carried little Jerlin back to the car and closed the window. Then Chen Zhao pulled the second person out of the trunk. Seeing his partner on the ground, the man's legs went soft. Chen Zhao stuffed another ball of dark serum into his mouth. Then a third person, then a fourth, then a fifth. Alex couldn't hear the 5 people's screams, but she could see them spasm on the ground. It was a silent pain. Although she couldn't hear anything, it was even more terrifying than the screams. "Tell me who sent you," Chen Zhao said. "Whoever is willing to speak can raise their hands. If not, you'll suffer like this forever." The 5 people fought to raise their hands. Chen Zhao picked one. The man's pain suddenly disappeared, and he could make a sound. "Tell me." A moment later, Chen Zhao got his answer. The 5 people were thugs. They belonged to a local gang. A moment later, Chen Zhao returned to the car. "Do you know the Black Wolf Gang?" "Yes, a famous gang in San Francisco. Is this related to them?" Chen Zhao took out his phone and dialed a number. "Hello, you're Mr. Scott, right?" Chen Zhao asked. "Who are you? Why are you holding Rat's phone?" "I want to ask who told you to send people to harass Miss Alex. What happened to Rat and the others?" "Mr. Scott, please answer my question directly, okay? Release my people. Otherwise, I will make sure that you and your family will never be able to live in peace." "Looks like our friendly negotiation failed. I'll go find you now. Chen Zhao hung up and turned to Alex. Go to 16th Street. Scott was furious. He hadn't faced such a rude challenge in a long time. In San Francisco, everyone knew that he was a butcher. But now someone actually dared to talk to him like this. Of course, someone who dared to talk to him like this probably had powerful weapons. Scott immediately gathered all his subordinates in the headquarters. Boss, what's going on? Scar was Scott's right-hand man. He'd once been a mercenary, but because he'd broken some mercenary rules, he'd been ostracized by the entire group. In the end, Scott had taken him in. Scott's current status was largely due to the group of gunmen trained by Scar. After Scar's military training, the gunmen might not be comparable to real soldiers, but their combat ability wasn't something regular gangsters could compare to. We'll have an uninvited guest tonight, Scott said. Just one. Maybe a powerful armed force. I'm not sure how strong he is right now. Scott's eyes flashed. Bring him to me. No one has ever spoken to me so rudely. No matter who he is, I'll make sure he doesn't leave. Chapter 777. Chun, are you sure you want to go in alone? Alex looked at the 7 or 8-story building in front of her. That building was the headquarters of the Black Wolf Gang. On the surface, it looked like a security company, but even hoodlums didn't dare to come here. The entire building was pitch black. There was no light at all. How about you come with me? Don't even think about it. Chen Zhao shrugged. Actually, I'm only going in to negotiate. I might not use force. Can't I come tomorrow? I'm busy during the day. Chen Zhao combed his hair. Alex stared at him. Do you really think you're here to negotiate? Chen Zhao walked into the building. Immediately there were gunshots. Alex shuddered in fear. Then there was silence. That guy isn't dead, right? Alex thought to herself. Scar stood in front of the second floor's fence, holding a sniper rifle. He looked at the corpse lying in the hall. Boss, it's done. There's only one person. Sorry, no one survived. It's fine, Scott said unconcerned. If he's dead, then he's dead. Captain, the corpse is gone. Gone? Scar was stunned. Boss, the situation has changed. Thud, thud, thud. Ah! Help. In the darkness, the people lying in ambush in the hall kept screaming. Come to the first floor for reinforcements, come to the second floor. But after the screams, the first floor fell into dead silence. There was no sound at all. There wasn't a single person to be seen. Scar's heart trembled. He'd miscalculated. Suddenly, a cold hand appeared from the darkness without any warning and grabbed Scar's neck. You shot me just now, right? Chen Zhao's voice rang in Scar's ears. Scar spun around and pulled out his gun to point at Chen Zhao, but there was no one behind him. Damn. Scar tried to turn around again, but Chen Zhao had already grabbed his wrist and pointed the gun upwards. Scar tried to break free, but he wasn't strong enough to shake Chen Zhao's grip. Chen Zhao increased the strength of his palm. Scar screamed. Just like that, Chen Zhao dragged him up. Alex kept looking at the building in front of her. Although the building was dark, they could still see the light of the gunfire. First, there was the flash of light on the first floor, then the fire on the second floor, then the third, fourth, fifth. Alex's mind was a mess. A single person breaking into a fully armed gang's headquarters and continuously breaking through it? Could he wipe out the entire gang by himself? At this moment, Scott, who was on the top floor of the building, was also panicking. Based on the report from his subordinates, the other party was constantly breaking through and had already reached the 6th floor. No matter how many ambushes he set up, how many gunmen, even if they used their only heavy machine gun, they still couldn't stop that person from breaking through. Every time he spoke to his subordinates through the walkie-talkie, it was as if they were on the battlefield. Gunshots and explosions rang out one after another. The fear continued to spread. After more than 10 minutes, the gunshots on the 7th floor stopped. At this moment, the elevator to the 8th floor opened. Scott quickly raised his gun and pointed it at the open elevator door. The elevator was littered with corpses, and the entire elevator was dyed red with blood. There was only one person standing inside. Scott looked at the Asian nervously. Who are you? What are you trying to do? Scott roared hysterically. Who told you to send those people to cause trouble for my sister-in-law? Or was it your own request? Did you kill my daughter's mother? Chen Zhao walked out of the elevator. I don't understand what you're saying. You don't understand? Chen Zhao walked toward Scott. Scott immediately yelled nervously. Don't come over, don't come over. I'm going to shoot. But his yelling couldn't stop Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao still walked toward Scott. You have one last chance. Who told you to send people? A member of Bright Electronics' board of directors, Scott finally answered. He couldn't take it anymore. He didn't want to face Chen Zhao anymore. There were dozens of gunmen in the entire building, but Chen Zhao had actually broken through. He knew that the gun in his hand couldn't guarantee his safety at all. Where were his subordinates? Were they dead or alive? Then why did they do this? Chen Zhao asked. I don't know. I just took the money. An hour later, Chen Zhao returned to the car. The moment Chen Zhao opened the door, Alex could feel the smell of blood on Chen Zhao's body. Just as she was about to ask, Chen Zhao spoke first. Cover little Jerlin's ears. What? Cover my daughter's ears. Why? Rumble. The 8-story building began to emit violent explosions. Amidst the flames and explosions, the building started collapsing. Wah. Little Jerlin was startled awake again, and with a wah, she began to cry. See, Jerlin woke up in fright again. You killed them all? Chen Zhao didn't answer Alex's question. Instead, he changed the topic. Do you know Bright Electronics? Yes, it's a multi-billion-dollar company. Is there a problem? Bright Electronics is related to Jerlin's death, Chen Zhao said. What? Alex exclaimed. How did my sister get involved with them? I don't know, Chen Zhao said. It's related to the sightseeing ship shipwreck 8 years ago. Your sister was investigating this case at the time. It might be related to Bright Electronics. Alex's expression turned serious. If Bright Electronics is related to Jerlin's death, what are you going to do? There's a saying in China, a life for a life, a debt for money. Can't we go through legal means? Alex asked. Don't be funny. You should know what kind of political protection a multi-billion-dollar company gets. Legal means definitely won't bring them to justice. West could contact the government and convict some criminal groups. But he couldn't touch a multi-billion-dollar company either. When you gave me the information, you should have known that I wouldn't go through legal means, right? Alex had indeed thought of using Chen Zhao's power to take revenge for Jerlin. But she didn't expect Chen Zhao to be so unyielding. Anyone who was involved in this matter was sent to God. It wasn't just 1 or 2 people. Just tonight, dozens of people from the Black Wolf gang had all died. Alex even felt a bit regretful. She didn't expect Chen Zhao to kill so many people just to avenge Jerlin. Was he still a university professor? Chapter 778. After half a night, Chen Zhao went back to Alex's house and stayed for the night. Did you give this bracelet to Jerlin? Chen Zhao asked curiously. No, it wasn't you. Alex was also confused. I was wondering if you Chinese have a tradition of giving your daughters silver bracelets. Of course not. Chen Zhao held Jerlin's wrist. He'd seen it before, but he hadn't observed it closely. Now that he looked at it again, it didn't look like a normal silver accessory. Chen Zhao reached out to take it off, but he couldn't pry it open. He didn't dare to use too much strength in case he hurt Jerlin. What's wrong? Alex asked. Nothing. Chen Zhao shook his head. Alex didn't really believe him. Chen Zhao's expression had clearly changed when he'd seen the bracelet. However, she couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. Then Chen Zhao carried Jerlin back to the house. Alex could vaguely hear Chen Zhao talking on the phone in the guest room. He seemed to be talking about silver bracelets and cults. President, we've checked. The missing children do have silver bracelets, West said. Go search now. Check all the hospitals. If the bracelets appear on the children's hands, they might be targets of cultists. With this clue, West and the others didn't run around like headless flies like before. West notified the other members of the society. They were now squatting at all the hospitals and investigating. Gaia and more teamed up. They were now outside a baby isolation room. Officer, it's those two. They've been sitting outside the room for the whole night. I suspect they have ulterior motives. The doctor pointed at Gaia and more across the aisle. At the moment, Both of them were a bit dispirited. After all, they hadn't slept for the whole night. They didn't have much energy. The officer walked over with his men. You too, I suspect you have ulterior motives. Please follow me back to the station for investigation. Fuck, do you know who we are? Moore stood up immediately. Pointing at the officer, he yelled, You say we're bad guys? We're protecting these children. Gaia and Lamore. Lamore was usually like a harmless white mouse in front of Chun Zhao. If he was facing an outsider, he would be extremely arrogant. But the police didn't care who they were. He took out the handcuffs and cuffed Moore in Gaia's hands. Fuck you, are you an idiot? You shut up. Gaia glared at Moore. At that moment, a nurse walked out of the isolation room with a child in her arms. Gaia's eyes flashed, and he suddenly shouted, Stop. Then the caretaker ran away. Quick, catch him. Gaia immediately gave chase, but Moore screamed and was pulled down by Gaia. Hurry up and untie us. That guy specializes in stealing babies. As soon as the police saw the caretaker, he felt it too. However, he ignored Gaia and Moore and chased after the caretaker. Gaia tore off the handcuffs on her and Moore's hands and chased after them. The policeman only felt a gust of wind blow past him before he saw Gaia rush forward. Stop! Gaia pounced on the caretaker. The caretaker turned around and raised a hand, pushing Gaia. Bang! Gaia's entire body flew out and smashed heavily into the wall. Then the caretaker crashed into the glass window and jumped out. The policeman was dumbfounded. He looked down and saw the caretaker land steadily on the ground. The policeman wanted to jump down too, but he was terrified when he saw the height. Gaia stood up again. He'd underestimated his opponent. Then, Gaia rushed out of the window and landed steadily on the ground. Gaia was about to chase after him when he heard a cry from upstairs. Catch me! Gaia looked up and saw the policeman jumping down. Gaia had no choice but to catch him. It was as if he was carrying a princess in his arms. Are you okay? I'm fine. The policeman felt like his waist was about to break. Gaia's arms were like steel bars. He fell from more than 10 meters. Although Gaia reduced some of the force, the policeman still fell hard. Gaia was about to chase after him when the policeman shouted, Get in my car. Although the policeman's entire body was in pain, he endured the pain and shouted. His car was right next to him. Gaia looked back and rushed into the police car. Hurry up, catch up. It was early in the morning, so there weren't many cars on the street. The caretaker also jumped into a car with the child. A street chase began. Drive faster. Can you do it? If you can't, I'll drive, Gaia urged. Fuck, this is a police car, not a sports car. The policeman was also nervous. After all, it was a baby that had been stolen from under his nose. He couldn't lose it no matter what. The policeman gritted his teeth and stepped on the gas. Who are you? The policeman asked. I'm not a bad person, Gaia said, his eyes fixed on the fleeing car in front. The policeman didn't say anything, although he wasn't sure of Gaia's identity. However, when it came to saving the child, they were on the same side. The two cars quickly drove out of the city, and the car in front turned into a country road. Not long after, the car in front of them stopped. Two people got out of the car. One of them was the caretaker who had stolen the child. The policeman stopped his car and pointed his gun at the two people. Stop. Don't move. The caretaker didn't care about the policeman's threat at all. Suddenly, she sped toward the policeman. Bang! The policeman opened fire. Although the caretaker was shot, she didn't slow down. Gaia pushed the policeman away, and the caretaker landed on the hood of the police car. What are you doing? The policeman shouted angrily. Do you want to die? Gaia glared at the policeman. I have a gun in my hand. But just then, the caretaker tore the hood of the police car off. The force almost made the policeman's eyes fall out. Step back, Gaia said. This thing isn't something you can handle. You're the one who should step back, woman, the policeman said relentlessly. Gaia looked at the policeman. The policeman was frightened by Gaia's gaze and took 2 steps back. The caretaker grabbed the hood of the car and threw it at Gaia and the policeman. Gaia raised her leg and swept it horizontally, sending the caretaker flying. Gaia loosened her muscles. The child is in the car. Go and carry him down. Leave this to me. The The policeman looked at Gaia and swallowed his words. But after a few steps he suddenly stopped. Chapter 779. The policeman retreated to Gaia's side. Can you explain what that thing is? Gaia looked at the man. He was now at least twice as tall. His skin had darkened and was covered in a layer of scales. His palms had grown sharp claws, and a large tail had appeared behind him. His pupils had also become inhuman. He looked like a lizard man. Just then, the mutated lizard man pounced at Gaia and the policeman. Swish! Gaia's chest was scratched by the strange man's claws. Gaia didn't show any mercy. She punched the strange man's head with great force. If this punch landed on an ordinary person's head, it would definitely be smashed like a watermelon. But this lizard man was unharmed. Of course, it wasn't completely useless. The strange man was also stunned by the punch. Go get the child out, Gaia shouted. At the same time, she kicked the lizard man away. The policeman ran to the car where the child was placed. The caretaker pounced on it. The policeman was so frightened that he turned around and fired 2 shots at the caretaker. Bang bang. Although the bullets were embedded in the caretaker's body, the caretaker didn't feel any pain. He didn't even bleed. A cruel smile appeared on the caretaker's face. He raised his fist and was about to hit the policeman's head. Gaia sprinted and hugged the caretaker's waist. Then she stabbed him upside down. Do you know how to save people? Useless. The policeman was embarrassed and annoyed, but he was indeed a little stunned by the fight between Gaia and the 2 monsters. At this time, he didn't dare to delay anymore. Gaia and the 2 monsters were fighting fiercely. It seemed that Gaia was even slightly injured. The 3 of them were in a complete mess. Gaia was still struggling to fight 1 against 2. The main reason was that she didn't have her weapon with her. The caretaker pounced on Gaia and bit hard at her neck. Even though Gaia had copper skin and iron bones, the bite was painful. However, this bite also angered Gaia. Gaia didn't care that the caretaker was still biting her neck. She directly pulled the caretaker down. The caretaker's mouth was still stained with blood from Gaia's neck. Gaia pried open the caretaker's mouth. She took a deep breath and spewed dragon breath at the caretaker's mouth. Then with a kick, the caretaker's body exploded in midair with a bang. The policeman got out of the car with the baby in his arms. He happened to see this scene. Are you a monster too? Gaia glared at the policeman. Protect the child. The policeman stopped talking. He also felt that his words were too much. After all, Gaia was trying to protect him and the child. The other lizard man saw that its companion was dead, but it didn't run away. Instead, he ran to the corpse, picked up a black sphere, and stuffed it into his mouth. Then the lizard men began their second mutation. The lizardmen's limbs began to grow stronger, and their fangs and claws became sharper. Gaia twisted his neck. He could tell that the lizard man had become more difficult to deal with. Hey, can you handle it? The policeman asked. It's all your fault. If it weren't for you, this wouldn't have happened. Why are you blaming me? Originally, my partner and I were protecting the child, but you actually wanted to arrest us. If my partner was here, I wouldn't have fallen into such a bitter battle. Now, I don't even have my own weapon. How would I know that you were protecting the child? The policeman defended himself. The lizard man was no longer a lizard man. It was more like a lizard monster. It had more parts of a lizard than a human. The lizard monster moved and pounced at Gaia again. Gaia punched out, and the lizard monster only staggered back. Then it slashed at Gaia with its claws. Gaia hurriedly dodged. She didn't dare to let the lizard monster sweep its claws. The lizard monster's claws were like daggers. One touch would take half of a person's life. The lizard monster also noticed Gaia's actions. It waved its 10 claws in front of Gaia. Facing such an airtight attack, Gaia couldn't do anything. The policeman saw that this wouldn't work. Gaia clearly couldn't do anything to the lizard monster. He raised his gun and shot at the lizard monster. This shot attracted the lizard monster's attention. The policeman was so scared that he peed his pants. He turned around and ran with the baby. The lizard monster was just about to pounce on the policeman when Gaia grabbed its big tail. The lizard monster swung its tail, trying to fling Gaia away. But Gaia's strength was also extraordinary. She was stronger than the lizard monster. Gaia pulled the lizard monster's tail and turned it into a windmill. Gaia smashed the door into a hard spot. She smashed it into a tree, then a rock, and finally a police car. Although the lizard monster was strong, it couldn't withstand such a flurry of attacks. At this moment, a car rushed over. Seeing the car, Gaia smashed the lizard monster into the car. Bang! The lizard monster was stunned by the impact and stood up shakily. Just then, Moore poked his head out of the car. Gaia, your weapon. Moore wanted to throw Gaia's weapon to her, but Gaia's weapon was too heavy. Gaia rushed to the front of the car, grabbed the big sword in the back seat, and slashed at the dazed lizard monster. Alive! Alive! Moore shouted. Gaia also reacted at this moment. She changed from slashing to slapping. Bang! The lizard monster was slapped away by the big sword the size of a door. With the weapon, Gaia's combat ability skyrocketed. The police officer was mesmerized by Gaia's majestic appearance. Gaia slashed again. She used the big sword as a hammer. Facing Gaia with the big sword, the lizard monster couldn't resist at all. Gaia slashed again. This time, Gaia cut off the lizard monster's left leg. But the lizard monster, whose left leg had been cut off, lay on the ground and moved forward like a lizard. Its movement wasn't affected by the loss of a leg. Instead, it was even more agile than before. However, it was still a little weaker than Gaia right now. 80% of Gaia's combat ability was based on the big sword. Gaia slashed again, and the lizard monster's right arm was cut off. This time, it completely lost its ability to move and couldn't resist anymore. The police officer immediately ran to the lizard monster and pointed his gun at it. Don't move. You're under arrest. You have the right to go away. Gaia pushed the police officer away. Do you know you're attacking a police officer? The police officer said unhappily. Gaia's response was a middle finger. The police officer felt wronged. I don't want to argue with a woman. Gaia pulled the lizard monster's tail and walked to her car. Where are you taking him? He's a suspect now. He's my captive. Don't you agree? Gaia looked at the police officer. Chapter 780. Benjamin kept explaining to his captain. Captain, I'm not lying. It's the monster that kidnapped the children and the big woman. You've seen the surveillance footage from the hospital. The footage has been deleted, the captain said. The captain said, in addition, although you saved the child, I still hope that you can be honest and not exaggerate your achievements. In addition, your car will be under the public account. You don't have to worry about having to bear the maintenance costs because of your mistakes. I'm not worried about that. Captain, I'm telling the truth. The woman caught the lizard monster, Benjamin said excitedly. Benjamin said excitedly, Captain, I've checked. In the past 3 months, 14 children have gone missing in San Francisco. All of them were born less than a month ago. Now there's a group of monsters out there stealing children. I think we have to be vigilant. The other woman must know more. We should find her and get clues from her. Okay, Ben, be quiet. Maybe you hit your head, so you're a little confused. I'll give you 3 days of paid leave to relax. Benjamin was very dissatisfied with the captain's distrust of him. Captain, I'm not hurt. I don't need a leave. I want to investigate this case. Ben, if you keep nagging, I'll make you hand over your badge. Benjamin wanted to say more, but the captain didn't trust him at all. In the end, Benjamin could only slam the door and leave angrily. He believed what he had seen, and he was very sure of what he had seen and experienced. It wasn't something that he had guessed, nor was it something that he had made up. Since the captain didn't believe him, he would investigate it himself. Benjamin held back his anger. The more people doubted him, the more he wanted to prove it to them. Benjamin ran to the archives. Hey, Carrie, can you help me look up some information? What do you want to look for? Carrie, the archives manager asked. Cases related to children in San Francisco in the last 3 months. Are you kidding me? There are at least 1,000 cases. Hospitals, newborns. Okay. Carrie then helped Benjamin search for cases. A moment later, Carrie came out with dozens of cases. Do you need me to print them out? Of course, I'll treat you to dinner later. Benjamin took the printed case file and found a place to flip through it. Silver bracelet? Benjamin frowned. He found a picture of one of the missing children. The child was wearing a silver bracelet. Benjamin remembered that when he saved the child today, the child was also wearing a silver bracelet. Nehemann's heart skipped a beat. Was this bracelet the key? Benjamin flipped to the next file and suddenly saw a photo. An Asian man covered in blood was carrying a child. The child was also wearing a silver bracelet. Benjamin carefully looked through the case records. In order to save his child who had been thrown down from the rooftop, the Asian man had jumped to save his own child. In the end, he had used himself as a cushion to protect the child. Benjamin looked at the case file. Since the child was also wearing a silver bracelet, it was very likely that he was also the target of the monsters. Even if this child's life was saved by his father, the monsters might still see this child as a target. Chen, where are you now? Alex called him. Hotel, Chen Zhao answered. I'll go to your place. A while later, Alex arrived at Chen Zhao's hotel. She handed him a document. What's this time? Take a look yourself. Chen Zhao took out the document and flipped through it. Some were police investigation reports, and some were old newspaper clippings. Just tell me. It's giving me a headache. Chen Zhao put down the document. There were so many things. His head hurt. There were 58 people on the North Beach sightseeing boat. 30 were saved and 28 were killed, including the former chairman of Bright Electronics and his family, Alex said. Alex said, after the former chairman and his family died, the current chairman took out an equity transfer contract and took all of the former chairman's shares in Tongming Electronics. In other words, it's murder for money? Chen Zhao asked, frowning. It's not that simple. In fact, Bright Electronics provides automated production line installation and services. Before the incident, someone once revealed that there were great hidden dangers in the automated production line program provided by Bright Electronics. During that time, the stock price of Bright Electronics plummeted. And then, is there something fishy going on? Alex thought for a moment and said, although there is no direct evidence, we can roughly guess from some details that this matter is likely fake news that the current chairman, Deng Boli, secretly released in order to buy the former chairman's shares at a low price. However, the former chairman didn't fall for this, so Deng Boli took a risk out of desperation. First, he kidnapped the former chairman's family and forced the former chairman to sign the share transfer contract. Then, he sent the former chairman and his family on a sightseeing boat, and then artificially created this accident, creating the illusion that the family's deaths were accidental. Alex added, and this isn't something that Deng Boli can handle alone. Although there is a share transfer contract, this kind of free transfer of shares has not been investigated by any judicial organization. This is because the board of directors has acknowledged this share transfer. In other words, Deng Boli isn't the only one on the board of directors of Bright Electronics who is plotting the shares of the former chairman. Who exactly? I don't have evidence, Alex emphasized. I'm not a court. After I confirm this, I don't need evidence. I only need the facts. I'm afraid only Deng Boli knows how many people are involved in this. It's okay. I'll pry open their mouths one by one. Don't mess around. They're all billionaires and have many bodyguards. Of course, Chen Zhao knew that dealing with rich people was completely different from dealing with gangs. Even if Chen Zhao killed his way through the gang, no one would seriously investigate him. However, if a rich person died, the police and even the government would be under great pressure. This was a society of money. The rich all looked at each other. If so many rich people died at once, the other rich people would definitely feel unsafe. They would definitely pressure the government and the police. By then, the police would definitely investigate to death. Chapter 781. As soon as Alex and Chen Zhao got out of the car, a stranger walked over. And this stranger's approach was something even Alex could see. Alex immediately protected Jerlin. Chen Zhao stopped in his tracks and attacked the man without hesitation. While Nehemann was still in a daze, Chen Zhao grabbed one of his hands and pressed him against the wall. Who sent you? Chen Zhao yelled. It's a misunderstanding. I'm a police officer, Nehayman shouted. He felt like his hand was going to break. It wasn't that he didn't want to fight back. More importantly, it felt like his hand was clamped by an iron clamp. He couldn't even move, let alone fight back. Where's your ID? In my pants pocket. Chen Zhao took out his ID and glanced at the photo. Alex, call and check this officer's number. He's a police officer, Alex said after putting down the phone. Chen Zhao finally let go of Nehayman and patted the dust off him. Nehayman's expression was gloomy. He moved his right arm. You're Mr. Chen, right? Yes. What's up? It's like this. I suspect that someone wants to harm your child. I'm here to protect her. You? Protect my daughter? Chen Zhao looked at Nehayman. Nehayman's face was bright red. I have a gun. Fine. Thank you for your kindness, but I'll pass. Chen Zhao shook his head. He didn't need a bodyguard, and neither did his daughter. If he couldn't even protect Jerlin, these useless police officers wouldn't help either. Mr. Chen, I'm doing this for your own good. The people who want to harm your daughter aren't ordinary people. You're good at fighting, but you're probably not their match. Alex glanced at Chen Zhao. Ha! This guy had wiped out an entire gang by himself. His combat ability couldn't be explained by just being strong. Thank you for your kindness, but I really don't need it. Mr. Chen, let's go. Chen Zhao didn't plan on wasting time with Nehayman. However, Nehayman chased after him relentlessly. Mr. Chen, whether you accept or not, I have to carry out my mission. Nehayman planned to forcefully protect him. Chen Zhao looked at him. Up to you. With that, he closed the door and locked Benjamin outside. Come, let Daddy hug you. Chen Zhao couldn't wait to pick up Jerlin from Alex's arms. Alex looked at Chen Zhao. This person was too complicated. In front of others, he was always so tough. But in front of his daughter, he immediately became like a slave to his daughter. You really don't need that policeman's protection? Having a policeman to protect you is a lot safer than protecting little Jerlin by yourself. How can we carry out our plan with him by our side? It's not us, it's you, Alex immediately corrected. I don't have the courage to face a dozen billionaires. Nehayman got a room opposite Chen Zhao's. However, Chen Zhao's room was a luxurious suite that cost $2,000 a night. This made Benjamin's heart ache. The most important thing was, this mission was completely his own. It wasn't a mission assigned by his superiors at all. However, there was a burst of anger in his heart, and he had to personally seize those things. For this, apart from his gun, he also prepared some other things. For example, a military stun baton, a carbon fiber rope, a tranquilizer gun, and a stun gun. Now he just had to wait for those monsters to come to him. Just then, Nehayman heard the sound of the opposite door opening. It was a person in a waiter's uniform. He pushed a food cart into the opposite room. Nehayman immediately opened the door and yelled, "Wait!" Chen Zhao, who was opening the door, and the waiter both looked at Nehayman in confusion. Sir, what's wrong? I'm a police officer. I'm suspicious of your identity. Show me your ID. The waiter was dumbfounded. Chen Zhao's face darkened too. Mr. Chen, those people can disguise themselves, so you have to be careful, Nehayman explained. At the same time, he took the waiter's work ID and compared it to his driver's license. Your ID is fine, but it doesn't mean you're a good person. The waiter looked at Nehayman helplessly. Officer, how can I prove my innocence? Nehayman glanced at the food cart, and then at Chen Zhao. You ordered all this? Yes. Is there a problem? Those people might have poisoned the food. I'll try it for you. The food in the cart costs at least $1,000, Chen Zhao said. After you try it, I'll call your chief to complain. Okay, the possibility of poisoning is low. I'll let it go this time. Nehayman didn't want his captain and chief to know that he'd acted on his own. Sir, shouldn't you leave now? I'm going to eat. Can you finish all this by yourself? By the way, is the woman with you today your wife? No. Are you going to check my ID? Chen Zhao looked at Nehayman impatiently. Then I won't disturb you anymore. Nehayman glanced at the table full of food and complained about how stingy Chen Zhao was. He couldn't finish all this food by himself. Whatever. He'd go back to his room and eat instant noodles. He was probably the only one who could stay in such a luxurious hotel and eat instant noodles. At night, Nihayman heard movement in the opposite room again. He immediately leaned against the door and looked across. Then he saw Chen Zhao carrying little Jerlin out of the room. Nihayman immediately opened the door. "Mr. Chen, it's so late. Why aren't you resting in your room? What are you doing outside? It's dangerous at night." "I don't need you to ask me where I'm going," Chen Zhao said with a dark expression. This guy had been watching him from the opposite door for an entire day. There was really no end to it. If it was someone powerful or an army, Chen Zhao would welcome him to protect his daughter. But it was just a regular person. If something really happened, would it be Chen Zhao protecting his daughter, or Chen Zhao protecting him? Also, with Chen Zhao by his side, it would be very troublesome for him to do anything in San Francisco. Even if you don't think for yourself, you should think for your daughter. "If you keep nagging, I'll call you to complain," Chen Zhao said with a dark expression. "Then I'll go with you." Nihayman immediately changed the topic. "No need. I said that I can protect my daughter myself. I don't need you to do anything. Mr. Chun, I'm a cop after all. Please believe in the power of the police. You said you can protect my daughter?" "Yes." Chapter 782. "That's what you said. If you get hurt, don't complain to me." "Sure, go ahead." Chen Zhao nodded. "Can I get a weapon?" "Sure." Benjamin turned around, planning to go back to the house to get the electric baton. Chen Zhao had already kicked Benjamin's butt, making his head and face touch the door intimately. "Idiot." Chen Zhao carried Jerlin away. "Ada! Ada!" Jerlin laughed so hard that her saliva flew everywhere. She clapped her tender hands. She seemed to really like Benjamin's funny behavior. "Jerlin, it's wrong to hit people." Chen Zhao looked at her sternly. "Jerlin, Ada." Hee. Jerlin didn't understand Chen Zhao's words. "Forget it." Chen Zhao shook his head. Reasoning with a woman was the most unreasonable thing. Moreover, the woman wasn't even a month old. Chen Zhao carried Jerlin to the suburbs. It was pitch black now. Jerlin was a bit scared. She nestled in Chen Zhao's arms. Chen Zhao found a wooden house deep in the forest. Gaia and the others were inside. They caught a cultist today, so they could only stay here temporarily. As soon as Chen Zhao entered the house, he immediately covered Jerlin's eyes. "What is this? It scared my daughter." Everyone was speechless. When would Chen Zhao be so gentle to them? Chen Zhao looked at the tied-up lizard monster. Gaia had cut off its right arm and left leg. But now, the lizard monster's cut had already healed and new flesh was growing out. "Did it open its mouth?" Chen Zhao asked. "President, there's nothing we can do," West said helplessly. "We've been beating him up for a day. We've used all kinds of methods. But look, small wounds heal after a few hits. Big wounds don't take long to heal. His recovery speed is incomparable to that of a normal person." "What kind of torture did you use today?" "Whipping, soldering iron, nail pulling, needle pricking." "Cut off his genitals. I want to know if they'll grow back after I cut them off." Everyone only had one thought. Chen Zhao was truly ruthless. Jalanash and Patya were about to leave. They were ladies in the association, so it was not appropriate for them to stay on such an occasion. "Forget it," Chen Zhao suddenly said. "Cutting it all off is too much. Let's use candles. I don't know if that thing of his can be cooked." Everyone shuddered at the sight of it. They really thought that Chen Zhao had found his conscience. But now it seemed that they had underestimated Chen Zhao's viciousness. Everyone realized that what they'd been playing for the entire day was child's play to him. Chen Zhao put little Jerlin in Gaia's arms and approached the lizard monster. "I really want to know if your Satan's master will help you fix your balls." The lizard monster struggled, trying to break free from the ropes. Then, West and the others tortured the lizard monster. A candle was lit beneath the lizard monster's lower body. The lizard monster struggled, but it couldn't break free. He let out a series of strange cries. Generally speaking, a short period of intense pain was not as deep as a lasting pain. A lasting pain was enough to drive a strong-willed person crazy. I'll tell you. I'm in an abandoned church in the south of the city. That's our headquarters. Good boy. Chen Zhao patted the lizard monster's face. However, Chen Zhao realized that the lizard monster's face was secreting a sticky liquid. What's this? So disgusting? Keep burning it. That's too much. We've studied it today. As long as we cause a certain amount of damage, its body will secrete this liquid. It can increase its recovery speed. Chen Zhao's eyes brightened. He collected the liquid from the lizard monster. When he returned, he would study it with Blackie to see if it was useful for his medical skills. The more damage, the faster it secretes, West said. Then increase the damage and make it secrete more. No one was polite to the lizard monster. No one would talk to them about humanitarianism here. However, the lizard monster's aura was getting weaker and weaker. While Chen Zhao was collecting the liquid, the lizard monster stopped secreting it. President, I think we killed it. I told you to go easy on it. Why didn't you listen? Look, you've wasted our precious resources. Chen Zhao felt pity. Never mind, he had collected enough slime. Suddenly, the lizard monster leaped up. Chen Zhao was shocked. Then he threw a punch at it. Crack, flesh splattered from everyone's body. Fuck, this asterisk shoal pretended to be dead. Chen Zhao shook off the flesh and blood on his fist. Go back and sleep. Tomorrow we'll hunt these asterisks' holes. President, aren't we leaving today? It's too late, Chen Zhao said. My daughter's going to sleep. It's not suitable for tonight. As expected, the president had become a slave to his daughter after having a daughter. He would always consider his daughter first. Benjamin woke up, rubbing his head. Very quickly, Benjamin remembered. He'd been ambushed by Chen Zhao and slammed into the door. Fuck, I'm going to catch that asterisk shoal. Benjamin held his head in pain. Just then, Chen Zhao returned with Jerlin. Hi, Mr. Benjamin. How are you? Fuck, why did you ambush me? Do you know you're assaulting a police officer? Do you have evidence? Goodbye. Good night. Chen Zhao didn't want to waste time with Benjamin. He closed the door. Benjamin wanted to reason with Chen Zhao, but a few more people came from the hallway. One of them was none other than Gaia. Hey, it's you. Benjamin looked at Gaia and the others, his eyes shining. They should be Gaia's companions. They caught the lizard monster today. They must have gotten more clues from it. If he followed them, he might have a better chance of catching those monsters. Gaia, do you know him? Gaia glanced at Benjamin. No. Benjamin didn't expect Gaia to lie. Let's go, Gaia said, waving her hand. Ignoring Benjamin, the others all stayed in Gaia's room. We'll hunt the cultists tomorrow, West said. We can't let the president participate. Why? Gaia asked, confused. Although they're cultists, most of them are actually ignorant civilians. But you've all seen how protective the guild leader is of his daughter. If he gets involved, he'll definitely kill without mercy. When that happens, rivers of blood will flow. But can you stop Chen? Gaia looked at West. Chapter 783. A child at Jerlin's age would throw a tantrum 4 or 5 times a night. Chen Zhao almost didn't dare to sleep, afraid that Jerlin would throw a tantrum again. It couldn't be helped. Every parent had to go through this. Chen Zhao didn't dare to turn off the lights, afraid that Jerlin would be scared to wake up in the dark. Kids were more sensitive. Around 4 in the morning, Jerlin woke up again. Ada. Apart from this tone, Jerlin didn't know how to make any other sounds. Every time little Jerlin cried or laughed, her saliva would splatter everywhere. For Chen Zhao, who had just become a father, this was a very special feeling. In every parent's eyes, their child was the most special and unique. Chen Zhao's diaper-changing skills had gone from rusty to proficient. He also had to soak milk powder and clean Jerlin up and down. Chen Zhao never thought that he would be so skilled at all of this. People were forced to be like that. If he was at home, Chen Zhao would basically let the underlings do it. In San Francisco, there was no one to serve him. Everything had to be done by himself. Every time, he would sleep for an hour. Then Jerlin would wake up and throw a tantrum for another hour before going back to sleep. Kids at this age were like this. They were sleepy and active at the same time. Because her body was growing rapidly, she ate a lot. After working until 5, Jerlin finally fell asleep. Chen Zhao also fell asleep in a daze. When he opened his eyes again, he realized that Jerlin had woken up too. This time Jerlin didn't cry as soon as she woke up. Instead, she stared at Chen Zhao with her big, beautiful eyes. No matter how tired he was last night, Chen Zhao's mood would brighten when he saw this little fairy. Chen Zhao pinched Jerlin's cheeks. Her delicate cheeks always made people unable to let go of them. Jerlin giggled. She didn't even have any front teeth, and her mouth was leaking air. She stuck out her pink and tender tongue. But then Jerlin's thin brows suddenly furrowed. Then she grinned again. Usually, when Jerlin showed this expression, Chen Zhao knew that something bad was about to happen. The fairy needed to change her diaper again. As expected, when Chen Zhao opened Jerlin's diaper, a horrible stench rushed out. Chen Zhao pinched his nose and hurriedly carried Jerlin to the bathroom. After cleaning Jerlin's crotch, he patted Jerlin's bare butt. "Alright, don't talk about poop anymore." "Haha, Daddy." Chen Zhao's face darkened. He didn't know if Jerlin was talking about poop, or if she was really calling him that. At this moment, there was a knock on the door. Chen Zhao thought that the breakfast he ordered had arrived. But when he opened the door, he saw West's old face. "Wah!" Little Jerlin immediately cried. "Phut, can you not scare my daughter so early in the morning? Please cover your face with a black cloth the next time you appear in front of my daughter." As Chen Zhao coaxed Jerlin, West's face darkened. "President, I was also young in the past. It's just that time is not old. Don't you people in China pay particular attention to respecting the elderly? Time is unforgiving if you're beautiful. Time can't do anything to an ugly person like you." If not for the fact that he couldn't beat Chen Zhao, West really wanted to fight him to the death. "How can you be so insulting? Whatever, I won't argue with you. Tell me, why are you here so early in the morning? You're not really here to scare my baby, are you?" Chen Zhao asked him politely. "President, we've investigated Satanism. I don't think you need to go personally." "No, I have to go," Chen Zhao said resolutely. "President, according to the information I've received, the strongest thing in Satanism is the lizard monster from yesterday. There are very few of them, so it's not worth you to go personally. Also, you have to bring Jerlin. Do you want her to come into contact with such bloodshed at such a young age?" Chen Zhao thought about it. He indeed didn't want Jerlin to come into contact with such things. But he wasn't satisfied. It had already been 2 or 3 days, but the anger in his heart hadn't subsided. "President, I promise I'll capture the leaders of that evil cult and hand them over to you to deal with. Besides, it's precisely because you've been doing everything yourself that we lack actual combat experience. This is a good opportunity for us to have a good fight. Are you sure you can do it?" Chen Zhao asked. "President, don't look down on us. Plus, Gaia is also participating in this mission. Okay, remember what you said. I want her alive, preferably in one piece." We'll try our best." Just then the waiter came. "Sir, please excuse me. President, you're having such a big breakfast. Let's eat together." "Fuck off." Chen Zhao glared at West. West ran back to his room dejectedly. Chen Zhao also planned to buy something for Fei Lai and his friends in LA since he was free today. When he went to New York last time, Fei Lai had nagged him for days because he didn't bring a gift. Things that could be bought in San Francisco could also be bought in LA. However, gift giving was about the process, not the gift itself. Of course, since he was going to buy something, he had to be careful. Thinking of gifts for Fei Lai, Chen Zhao first thought of jewelry. He and Fei Lai had been together for more than half a year. He'd only given her one gift, the Red Moon Heart. Even though the Red Moon Heart was precious, Chen Zhao still felt like he owed Fei Lai. Chen Zhao entered the jewelry store. He really wanted to see the kind of story where people look down on others. Then he could show off and slap them in the face. Unfortunately, the employees in real jewelry stores were all very polite. They didn't look down on others at all. A rather pretty employee walked up. "Sir, how may I help you? I want to give my girlfriend a gift." "Do you have any recommendations?" Chen Zhao asked. "Sir, what's the price of your gift?" "Something under $1 million. The employee's eyes immediately lit up. She'd thought that Chen Zhao was carrying a baby and was dressed rather plainly. His outfit was probably only worth $1,000, so she really looked down on him. She didn't expect Chen Zhao to be so rich that he could give a gift under $1 million. The employee walked up to the counter. "Sir, what do you think of this necklace?" This necklace was designed by the famous designer, Ella J.K. The pendant is a 45-carat sapphire, and at the same time, it is inlaid with 121-carat diamonds. Chapter 784. Yeah. Zhilin, who was sitting on the counter, pointed at the glass below. Clatter, clatter. Chen Zhao turned his head. Zhilin became even more excited and kept pointing at the bottom of the glass. "Miss, what's this?" Chen Zhao asked the salesgirl. "Show me." "Sir, this is natural amber. It was excavated from South America. There's a young snake sealed inside. According to the appraisal, this amber is over 10,000 years old." Chen Zhao took the amber. It was about 7 or 8 centimeters in diameter. Ah, Ada. Seeing the amber in Chen Zhao's hands, Zhilin became even more excited. She reached out, wanting to take it. Chen Zhao handed the amber to Zhilin. Zhilin opened her mouth to bite. "Sir, this amber is worth $200,000. You can't." "It's fine. I'll buy it," Chen Zhao said. "There's no poison in it, right?" "No." The salesgirl looked at Chen Zhao, her eyes shining. Chen Zhao had actually spent $200,000 just to bite his daughter's mouth. This guy was an out-and-out tycoon. "Will it crack her teeth?" "My daughter hasn't grown teeth yet. I'm afraid it'll affect her growth." "Sir, amber is also called beeswax in the East," the salesgirl said. "It's soft and mainly made of resin. It's not poisonous." "Okay, continue to recommend me gifts for my girlfriend." The salesgirl looked at the amber that Zhilin kept biting. "No, it was $200,000. "Sir, how about this platinum bracelet?" "This platinum bracelet is also the work of a master. It's inlaid with red, blue, green, and yellow gems. Each gem is 50 carats, and the surface of the bracelet is engraved with European and American style patterns. The bracelet weighs 77 grams. "Oh, how much?" "This bracelet is expensive. It might exceed some customers' budget." "How much?" $1. 2 million. "Is there a discount?" "Sorry, sir, we don't bargain." Holding the bracelet, Chen Zhao looked left and right. It was indeed beautiful. Especially with the 4 different colored gems, it looked even more beautiful. Not to mention wearing it at banquets. It could even be worn as a normal accessory. "Okay, help me pack it up." Hearing his answer, the clerk's heart almost jumped out of her chest. For the sales of such luxury goods, the staff would take a commission of 2% to 3%. If she sold this bracelet, she would earn $20,000 to $30,000. The clerk's expression didn't even change when Chen Zhao swiped his card. His eyes shone brightly as he said, "Sir, your bracelet is ready." "Well, thank you." "Sir, would you like to look at other jewelry?" Chen Zhao suddenly remembered that Steven's movie seemed to have stopped screening. There would be a celebration party soon. Since she had agreed to attend, she should find a gift for him. Steven had helped him a lot. It was thanks to his help that they were able to get Fei Lai for 12 million. Moreover, he was going to give her a helicopter. How could she be stingy? "By the way, do you have any gifts for your male friends?" "My friend is older," Chen Zhao said. "It's best if he can show his mature personality." The shop assistant almost jumped up. Sure enough, he was not an ordinary big customer. "Sir, may I know the price of this gift?" "Less than $3 million. A gift for Steven and a gift for Fei Lai had different meanings. Therefore, a good relationship could not be judged by the price. "Sir, we have a Minster watch in our shop. If you're interested, I can ask the manager to take it out for you to take a look. I don't know much about pocket watches. Is there anything special about this Minster watch?" Münster was a pocket watch master from the 17th century. He also represented the highest level of craftsmanship in that era. Münster made a total of 8 pocket watches during his lifetime. 5 of them are either missing or destroyed in history. Now 2 of them are in the hands of 2 billionaires. The pocket watch in our shop is the 3rd Münster watch that exists. "Okay, then take it out for me to take a look." "Mr. Chen, The price of this watch is exactly $3 million. Then it's within my budget. Please wait a moment. A while later, the shop assistant and manager came out. The manager was a mature woman. She was also graceful and charming, but she was even more charming than the young female employees. Hello, sir. I heard that you want to buy a Minster watch? Yes. Then please come to my office to talk, okay? Is that okay? Of course. The manager looked at Jerlin and Chen Zhao's arms. She immediately recognized the amber in Jerlin's hand. It was the $200,000 amber from their jewelry shop. Chen Zhao was not the most generous person in their shop, but he was the most straightforward. In less than 10 minutes, he had spent $1 million without even blinking. Yeah. Little Jerlin seemed to be hungry. My daughter is hungry, Chen Zhao said. I'm going to take her back and make a bottle of milk powder for her. Come back tomorrow. Sir, how about I ask the shop assistant to make milk powder for your daughter? The manager knew very well that if the customer before her left, he might never step into her shop again. She could not easily miss a good customer when doing business. Do you also provide infant milk powder? Chen Zhao asked, smiling. Our jewelry shop doesn't just provide jewelry. We also provide excellent service. Okay, as soon as possible. I don't want my daughter to be hungry for too long. Okay, please follow me. At the office, the manager and 2 security guards escorted a box in. Mr. Chen, please take a look. The manager opened the ancient box. Chen Zhao suddenly felt a wave of magic wash over him. Huh. Chen Zhao was surprised. Can I pick it up and see? Of course. Chen Zhao picked up the pocket watch and studied it. The pocket watch was still moving. The copper body of the watch had been maintained very well. It had an ancient aura to it. The watch gave Chen Zhao a very strange feeling. Every time the second hand moved, Chen Zhao felt his magic jump along with it. Is this a magic item? Chen Zhao took out his card. I'll take this watch. The female store manager sucked in a breath of cold air. It was that simple. Don't you want to appraise it again? Chen Zhao's generosity made the manager uncomfortable. The shop assistant hadn't even returned from making the milk powder. Were all Chinese so generous when buying things? Soon the procedures were done. Buying a luxury item was rather complicated. For example, the appraisal instructions, certificate, and purchase contract all needed to be signed. Chapter 785. Chen Zhao kept holding on to the watch. The pocket watch gave Chen Zhao an extraordinary feeling. Chen Zhao tried to inject magic into the watch. Suddenly, Chen Zhao's magic surged into the watch like a broken dam. At the same time, the second hand of the watch started spinning like crazy. Chen Zhao's body collapsed. He almost couldn't hold Jerlin. He knelt on one knee and supported himself with one hand. His forehead was covered in sweat. Sir, are you okay? A passerby asked when he saw Chen Zhao kneeling on the ground. Thank you. I'm fine. Chen Zhao stood up again. He'd been through all kinds of storms. Today, he'd almost died because of this small watch. The watch was really weird. But if it was a magical item, what was its use? Or was it a demon badge? Oh, he had to keep it for his own research. He had to choose another gift for Stephen. Chen Zhao turned around and entered the jewelry store again. But the female employee was closing the door. Wait, are you going to close? Chen Zhao came in and asked. Sir, the item you bought is a luxury item. Without a valid reason, you can't return it. Please leave. The female employee interrupted. I don't want to return it. I want to. Sir, I said no refunds. Don't you understand? I want to buy something else. The female employee panicked. We're closing now. If you want to buy something else, please come back tomorrow. How could a businessman push his business away? Chen Zhao checked the time. It's only 3 in the afternoon, right? You're closing so early? Did you make too much money? Are you planning to take a break? The female employee's expression didn't seem right. She gave Chen Zhao a hard look. Just then another female employee walked over. Smiling, she said, Sir, what do you need? I can help you buy it. Chen Zhao remembered that this female employee was the only one in the store just now. He didn't see any of the female employees here. Just then, Chen Zhao saw blood seeping out from under the counter. The female employee who'd come to serve Chen Zhao suddenly took out a gun and pointed it at him. Fuck, why did he run into a robber when he came out to buy a gift? Careful. Chen Zhao grabbed the gun with one hand. Bayu. Chen Zhao was shooting at the man's head, but he missed. Did I miss? At a distance of 1 meter, he actually missed? Fuck, what a stupid gun. Chen Zhao threw the gun away in anger. Seeing that Chen Zhao had not only missed, but also dropped the gun, the female robber was overjoyed. She pulled out a dagger and tried to stab Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao did the same thing again. He snatched the dagger and stabbed it at her neck. She clutched her neck and stared at Chen Zhao in disbelief. Then she slowly fell down. The salesgirl screamed in fear. Chen Zhao hugged her shoulders. Don't be scared. It's fine now. The shop assistant was terrified. She pointed at the store and said, There are robbers inside. As soon as he said that, 2 people came out. When they saw Chen Zhao and his partner on the ground, they immediately raised their guns. Chen Zhao kicked the robber's corpse over. At the same time, he pulled the female employee and ran out. After running out of the store, Chen Zhao immediately pulled down the sliding door and locked the robbers inside. The sliding door of a jewelry store was even sturdier than a security door. There were also no other passages inside. Call the police, Chen Zhao said. Huh? Call the police. Oh, the female employee was still in shock, but she suppressed her uneasiness. The robbers inside wanted to open the door, but Chen Zhao's foot pressed down on the sliding door. They couldn't open it. The robbers fired a few shots at the door, but it was unscathed. A large group of police came. Chen Zhao and the female employee cooperated with the police and answered a few questions. At the same time, they told them about the situation inside. There had been 5 robbers inside, but Chen Zhao had killed one. The remaining 4 had relatively high firepower. Of course, they didn't even have a hostage in such an encirclement. It was impossible for the robbers to break out even if they wanted to. Then the robbers were captured. They didn't resist at all. They just surrendered. This was normal. The robbers had high firepower, but they couldn't handle the police's numbers. They also used heavy firepower to suppress them. This guy's really strong. A few police officers gathered together and watched the surveillance video. He killed the robbers with one hand while carrying a child. That's China Kung Fu, right? His shooting skills are a bit bad. He can't even hit at such a close distance. These robbers aren't normal people. They've been bodyguards and mercenaries before. They're all extremely vicious. Just then, Chen Zhao and the female employee walked out of the lounge. After the 2 were questioned, Chen Zhao told them the whole story. He had the female employee's testimony and the surveillance video. Plus, Chen Zhao's job and identity as a university professor allowed him to receive respect wherever he went. Thus, he was treated quite well in the police station. He was treated like a hero. After all, he'd only used one hand to stop this vicious crime. Sir, thank you for saving me. The female employee looked at Chen Zhao lovingly. You're welcome. I just happened to help. Chen Zhao smiled. Zhirlin was still holding the milk bottle. He'd gotten it from the female employee. Can I treat you to a meal? Chen, are you okay? Just then, Alex walked in and interrupted his conversation with the female employee. The female employee thought that Alex was Chen Zhao's girlfriend. She secretly gave Chen Zhao a note. Call me when you're free. Bye. Chen, what's the situation now? Nothing. I just ran into robbers, Chen Zhao said casually. If you participate in any dangerous things next time, can you not bring Zhirlin? I know you're strong, but Zhirlin can't protect herself at all. Alex looked at Chen Zhao angrily. I didn't want to participate, Chen Zhao argued. Trouble came to me. I think I should take care of Zhirlin. Alex brought up the past again. That's impossible. If you want, go have your own baby. Don't steal my daughter. Do you have to make it hard for me? You know I can't have a baby. Not really, Chen Zhao said, shrugging. You can do a test tube. Alex's face darkened. She gritted her teeth and glared at Chen Zhao. Chapter 786. Just as Chen Zhao and Alex were about to walk out of the station, a police officer hurriedly ran out and blocked their way. Mr. Chun, the 4 robbers escaped. Before they left, they said that they would find you for revenge. Chun Zhao was surprised. Don't tell me the police are with the robbers? The officer was furious and ashamed at Chun Zhao's reply. This was probably the biggest insult to a police officer. Working with the robbers? Mr. Chun, please believe in our impartiality. Fine, I believe you. Please catch the robbers quickly, Chun Zhao said indifferently. I have something else to do. I'll go back now. Mueller, the guy who killed Rhine, is the thing in his hands? Mueller's eyes were bloodshot. Rhine was his girlfriend, but Rhine had died before him. His eyes were filled with hatred. That's right. The female store manager said that an Asian carrying a child bought the watch. I thought this would be the easiest mission. I didn't expect such an accident. Quake took a deep breath. I hate accidents. Boss, I'll go personally and bring the Asian's head and the watch, Mueller said, gritting his teeth. I don't want any accidents this time, so bring more people. If the guy can kill Rhine so easily, he shouldn't be weak. Boss, I'm enough, Mueller said. I don't need anyone else. Don't you understand me? Quake looked coldly at Mueller. I don't like accidents. The first time can be an accident, but if you fail a second time, it only proves your incompetence. You've already screwed things up the first time. Don't you know how to self-reflect? Mueller lowered his head. Boss, I understand. It's almost time, West said. Check your equipment, Gaia reminded. No problem. Me too. This was their first serious mission since Chun Zhao became the president. Of course, when they were in Los Angeles, they'd occasionally fought evil spirits. But that wasn't a mission. After checking, they set off from the hotel directly. However, other than Gaia, the others also felt a little guilty. Although they were the ones who requested Chun Zhao not to do the job. Chun Zhao was not the only one. But when the time came, they themselves were a little scared. West, are you sure we can handle this? Jolig asked. Have confidence in yourself. The enemy this time is a group of evil cultists. If we can't even handle a few evil cultists, what else can we do? We can't stay under the guild leader's protection forever, right? Actually, there's nothing wrong with staying under the guild leader's protection forever, Mord muttered. Everyone fell silent. All right, what Mord said seemed to make some sense. All right. No matter what, we have to complete the mission on our own this time. And we have to do it beautifully, West encouraged. When the car drove out of the city, Gaia suddenly said, There's a car following us. What? Have we been discovered? Could this be a trap? Everyone tensed up. Patya was even more frightened. Let's call the guild leader and ask him to save us, she said. Be quiet, Gaia said, frowning. Jolig stopped the car. The car stopped by the roadside, and so did the other car. Gaia walked directly toward the car. The person following behind the people from the association was none other than Benjamin. Hi, how did you discover me? Benjamin looked awkwardly at Gaia, who had walked to the window. What do you think? Benjamin's car was parked a dozen meters behind them. In this kind of place where there was no village ahead or shop behind, with a car following more than 10 meters behind, unless one was blind, it was impossible to avoid it at all. Plus, Benjamin didn't have any experience in following people. Why are you here? Why are you following us? Are you going to surround those monsters? I'll go with you. You? No, it's too dangerous. It's not something normal people can participate in. You'd better go back to where you came from. No, look, I prepared a lot of weapons. Benjamin opened the bag on the passenger seat. There were all sorts of things inside. Stun batons, stun guns, fiber nets, and even animal traps. Your tools are useless against those monsters. To them they're like toys. Don't underestimate me, Benjamin said indignantly. I'm not as strong as you, but I can protect myself. He felt that he was being underestimated, so he had to prove himself. Benjamin was a man with a strong sense of pride. Otherwise, he wouldn't have chosen to investigate alone, because of his captain's suspicions. Gaia suddenly went to the car, grabbed her sword, and slammed it down on the hood of Benjamin's car. After a loud bang, Benjamin's car was destroyed. Benjamin was dumbfounded. Gaia glanced at Benjamin. Now you can't follow us anymore. With that, Gaia strode off. Benjamin was left alone in the darkness. His face red, Benjamin shouted. You think you can get rid of me like this? It's useless. I'll use my own methods to prove myself. Benjamin dragged his bag, which weighed dozens of kilograms, out of the car, carried it on his back, and continued forward. But by then the road was completely dark. Benjamin started to feel afraid again. After walking for a while, Benjamin was physically and mentally exhausted. Suddenly, there was a rustling sound around him, and Benjamin's scalp went numb. Benjamin ran as fast as he could, and a black shadow chased after him in the darkness. Although he couldn't see clearly, Benjamin could roughly make out the outline in the darkness. It was the same kind of lizard monster he had encountered before. As Benjamin ran, he took out his gun, turned around, and shot at the lizard monster that was chasing after him. Bang bang! The lizard monster instantly disappeared behind him, and Benjamin's shot missed. The lizard monster was too fast, and it had the cover of the night. Suddenly, Benjamin felt a gust of cold wind behind him. When Benjamin turned around, he saw the lizard monster raising its claws and slamming them down on his head. Benjamin instinctively raised his gun and fired 2 more shots. This time, the lizard monster didn't even bother to dodge. I'm dead this time. Benjamin had already lost all hope. Chapter 787. Just then, a gust of wind whizzed past Benjamin's head. The lizard monster stopped moving. Benjamin looked at the lizard monster nervously. Just then, the lizard monster's arms suddenly broke into pieces and fell to the ground. Then its shoulder slid down to the ground. Benjamin's face was filled with shock. When he looked up again, Gaia had unknowingly appeared behind the lizard monster. Gaia looked down at Benjamin. What do you think? Do you still want to follow me? Benjamin gulped. How about you send me back? Gaia sneered, you wish. With that, Gaia swaggered off. Wait for me. Don't leave me here alone. Benjamin was scared out of his wits as he chased after Gaia. Gaia returned to the car. Benjamin followed. What, you still want to follow? Do you think I can go back to the city with my legs? Forget it, get in. Benjamin looked at the people in the car with an awkward expression. Hi everyone. Everyone looked at Benjamin. Gaia, are you sure it's okay to bring him along? West asked. I have some equipment. Maybe you guys can use it. Benjamin opened his backpack generously. This is a military stun baton. It has 2 million volts and an instant output of 30,000 volts. Even a tiger can be electrocuted. Jalig took out a similar stun baton. 10 million volts and an instant pulse of 100,000 volts. Benjamin's face flushed. He was about to take out the stun gun. Jalig took out another stun gun. A short-distance stun pulse gun. There's no ejection device. It attacks with electric arcs and an instant output of 100,000 volts. Benjamin was speechless. Many of the equipment he'd brought weren't available on the market. Some of them were bought from the internet, and some were modified by him. He'd thought that he could at least fight the monsters with these weapons. But compared to Jalig's weapons, his were like children's toys. Put this on. Gaia tossed a bulletproof vest to Benjamin. I have a bulletproof vest. This isn't a normal bulletproof vest, Gaia said. I'm afraid that bulletproof vest of yours can't even block a single hit from those monsters. The car slowly stopped outside the church. Even under the night sky, the dilapidated church could still be seen. Flames could be vaguely seen in the church, and the air was filled with a trace of strangeness. Everyone got out of the car and looked at each other. The oppressive feeling that the church gave them made them feel as if their chests were blocked, and it was difficult for them to speak. Let's go in. Gaia's expression was solemn. Wes made up his mind and said to Benjamin behind him, follow behind. Everyone pushed open the church's door and saw a few dozen black-robed men standing in front of a magic array in the center of the church. In the name of the supernatural organization, I'm giving you an ultimatum. Surrender immediately, West announced loudly. All the black-robed men turned to look at the people from the association. Being stared at by so many pairs of eyes made them feel a little creeped out. The pairs of eyes hidden under the black robes were all emitting a strange light. Wah! With a cry, the The black-robed man in the center of the magic array raised a naked baby high in the air. The black-robed man was still chanting a magic prayer. "Put the baby down," Gaia yelled. The black-robed man slammed the baby onto the ground. Then there was no more sound. Everyone's heart felt like it had been yanked hard. It was an indescribable pain, an erupting fury like a volcano. Just then, another cultist handed a child to the black-robed man in the center. Gaia finally couldn't hold it in anymore. "Stop!" Waving her burning sword, Gaia rushed to the center like a wild beast. But at that moment, the black-robed cultists tore off their clothes. They revealed the appearance of lizards and made lizard-like noises. "Kill all of you monsters! Kill, kill, kill!" Gaia rushed over without a care. But she still couldn't stop them. She couldn't stop the second child from being smashed onto the ground. Gaia wasn't the only one angry. The others were just as furious. Gaia swung her sword. For lizards were cut in half at the waist. Gaia leaped high into the air and swung her sword at the black-robed man in the center. The black-robed man stretched out his right hand. It was a palm covered in bone spikes. The black-robed man's palm suddenly turned into a huge ghastly claw and swiped at Gaia in the air. Gaia was sent flying along with her sword. "Kill them all and send their flesh and blood to Lord Solaris." Large numbers of lizards and the people from the association started fighting. Gaia kept rushing forward, trying to stop the black-robed man's evil actions. But she couldn't do it. The black-robed man killed a third child right in front of her. The black-robed man's body started convulsing. His breathing became heavy. A wave of power surged out of the magic array and entered through his feet, filling every corner of his body. "Ah, come on, Lord Solaris, I want more. Continue. Continue. Just a little more. Give me a little more, I can take it." Benjamin wanted to help, but he realized that the battlefield didn't allow him to. Wes was also standing with him. "Sir, aren't you going to help them? I'm their brains. I'm commanding them." "Air. But I don't think you've commanded them before." "As their commander, I have to protect myself first," Wes said matter-of-factly. Just then a lizard monster charged over. But when it reached West, its movement seemed to have slowed down by 10 times. West shoved the stun baton into the lizard monster's mouth. Electric arcs instantly blasted the lizard monster's mouth. Just then, West saw Gaia being sent flying again by the black-robed man in the middle. "Sir, we seem to be at a disadvantage. Miss Gaia doesn't seem to be able to defeat the man in the middle," Benjamin said worriedly. "We're doomed." West's face was full of bitterness. "Are we going to die?" Benjamin's face was full of fear. West looked at the battlefield and hesitated for a moment. "What a headache." Benjamin watched as West picked up his phone and put it down again and again. He seemed to be in a dilemma. "Mr. West, what are you doing? Is this phone some secret weapon?" You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.